Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. Time slowly passed until midnight. Obito Uchiha, wearing a tiger-striped mask, quietly sneaked into Hidden Leaf Village. As the #1 village, Hidden Leaf Village was of course heavily guarded, especially on this very important day. However, for a skilled shinobi like Obito, infiltration wasn't difficult. Especially with his space-time ninjutsu and White Zetsu's assistance. From White Zetsu, Obito learned the location of the birthing room. Not within the village, but in the back mountain of Hidden Leaf Village. Although it was very secretive, it couldn't escape White Zetsu's detection. Minato no Mikaze, I'm coming for you. Obito's Sharingan spun as he formed hand seals. 2 shadow clones appeared. He sent them off, and moments later, explosions echoed through Hidden Leaf Village. Obito wasn't stupid. He knew that a direct attack wouldn't work. Minato no Mikaze and Hiruzen Sarutobi were guarding the area. He had to create a diversion. Sure enough, Minato and Hiruzen were drawn away by the explosions. Obito didn't waste a second. He didn't have much time. He had to act fast before Minato and Hiruzen realized it was a trap. Entering the birthing room, Obito swiftly killed the midwife, Biweko Sarutobi, and then snatched the newborn Naruto from Biweko Sarutobi's hands. Biweko Sarutobi was Hiruzen's wife. Just as Obito grabbed Naruto, Minato and Hiruzen returned. Obito's expression darkened. They were fast. It had only been a minute. Minato. The baby. Akiko called out weakly. Minato saw his son in Obito's grasp and moved to rescue him, but Obito held a kunai to the newborn's throat. Don't move, 4th Hokage. Obito looked at Minato coldly. Seeing his former teacher, he felt no emotion at all. Threatened by Obito, Minato no Mikaze naturally didn't dare to move. Even Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was filled with grief and indignation because of Biweko Sarutobi's death, didn't dare to move. Approaching Akiko, Obito threw Naruto towards Minato no Mikaze while grabbing Akiko Uzumaki. Taking advantage of the moment Minato caught Naruto, Obito vanished with Akiko. Using Kami. Sandaime-sama, take care of my son. I'm going after Akiko. Minato handed Naruto to Hiruzen, his eyes filled with love and worry, then used the Flying Thunder God technique to pursue the masked man. By the time Minato caught up, it was already too late. Obito had already broken the seal on the Nine Tails. ROR. A monstrous roar shook the earth as the Nine Tails chakra exploded outwards, its massive form materializing behind Hokage Rock. Damn it. Minato's eyes were bloodshot. He knew what happened to a Jinchuriki after the tailed beast was extracted. You're too late, 4th Hokage. Obito Uchiha ruthlessly threw Akiko Uzumaki's body toward Minato. Without another word, he used Kamyu to vanish into his personal dimension, then teleported into Hidden Leaf Village via preset marker. Chapter 251, It's Quite Safe Here. Obito stood atop a building in Hidden Leaf Village, gazing at the village he once loved. Now devoid of any emotion. Summoning jutsu, with a single hand seal, the nine-tailed fox, previously rampaging behind Hokage Rock, was summoned to the heart of Hidden Leaf Village. Obito's ability to summon the Nine Tails should be related to Madara Uchiha. Madara Uchiha once forcibly turned the Nine Tails into his summoning beast in order to deal with Hashirama Senju. Then, Madara Uchiha and the Nine Tails were both beaten to a pulp by Hashirama Senju. Looking at the raging Nine Tails, Obito used his Mangekyo Sharingan to control it. Normally, a single Mangekyo Sharingan wouldn't be enough to control the Nine Tails, but Obito, having Hashirama cells, possessed amplified ocular power. Enough to exert temporary control. Finally. I've been waiting so long. Shin, Kushina, and Maitru Mummy sat atop the Hokage Rock, observing the rampaging Nine Tails. So that's the Nine Tails. I wonder how strong it is? Maitru Mummy asked curiously, staring at the massive beast. Average. I could crush it without even using my hands. Shin replied casually. It does look scary, but I could probably beat it up. Kushina added, echoing Shin's confidence. If you two say so, then I guess I could probably fight it to a draw. Maitru Mummy said, trying to join in. Shin looked at her and shook his head. You're overestimating yourself. Kushina could probably beat the Nine Tails, but you'd get crushed. You don't think I could win? Matru Mummy gave him a challenging look. The Nine Tails is the strongest of the tailed beasts. Don't underestimate it. Shin explained, chuckling softly. Kushina could handle the Nine Tails because of her sealing jutsu. The Uzumaki clan's powerful techniques, combined with her strength, made subduing the beast possible. Matru Mummy, however, lacked that advantage. Lava style and boil style were effective against humans, but not tailed beasts. Even with Sage Mode, she will struggle against the Nine Tails. Fine, whatever you say. Matru Mummy looked down, though she clearly wasn't convinced. It seems that Obito Uchiha is still showing mercy to Hidden Leaf Village. Shin observed. Watching the Nine Tails rampage. If Obito used a tailed beast ball now, Hidden Leaf Village would suffer devastating losses. No one could defend against it at this moment, and the villagers hadn't evacuated yet. It would be the perfect time to strike. Yet Obito hadn't. Shin suspected he still had some lingering attachment to Hidden Leaf Village. We'll just watch from here. It's safe here. No sooner had he spoken than the Nine Tails roared, gathering yin and yang chakra into a black sphere before swallowing it whole and unleashing a massive chakra beam directly at the Hokage rock. What the hell? A tailed beast bomb? Shin cursed under his breath. He'd just said it was safe, and now they were being targeted. He could feel Kushina and Matru Mummy staring at him, which made him slightly embarrassed. I told you. It's safe here. Black chakra enveloped them, forming a massive, armored Susanoo that effortlessly blocked the tailed beast bomb. See? Perfectly safe. Shin grinned at Kushina and Matru Mummy from within the Susanoo. It is, indeed. Matru Mummy looked at Shin's Susanoo with envy. She wished she had such a powerful, versatile technique. Why wasn't she an Uchiha? With her talent, she was certain she could awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. Of course, awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan required more than just talent. Why would the Nine Tails attack us? Is Obito controlling it? Kushina was furious. This felt like an unprovoked attack. She wanted payback. I'm not sure. Did Obito spot me? Shin wondered. He didn't think Obito could see them from his current location. It was night. Obito was too far away. Obito was indeed unaware of Shin's presence. He had targeted the Hokage rock because it was an important symbol of Hidden Leaf Village, a representation of the village's spirit and history. He wanted to destroy it. However, his tailed beast bomb had no effect. Blocked by something unseen. Obito didn't have time to investigate. Minato had arrived. Facing the furious Hokage, Obito was struggling. Who exactly are you? Why are you wearing a mask? Minato Namikaze asked coldly. Minato and Obito were currently facing off in an abandoned training ground. Obito had fled there, with Minato in pursuit. Obito remained silent. He couldn't reveal his identity. I am Madara Uchiha. He used Madara's name once more, and Minato froze, startled. Madara Uchiha. Minato stared at him intently. Madara Uchiha was dead. A fact known throughout the shinobi world. Even if he was still alive, he must be very old. The masked man was clearly young, so Minato didn't believe him. Glancing at the rampaging Nine Tails, Minato decided to capture the masked man first, then he'd learn the truth. He threw a flying thunder god kunai, but Obito didn't dodge, letting it pass right through him. Minato teleported behind Obito and attacked with the Rasengan, but the attack phased through Obito, harmless. Space-time ninjutsu? Chapter 252, Obito escapes. Minato stared at the masked man, analyzing the flaws in his abilities, searching for a weakness. He believed no jutsu was invincible. Rasengan, he attacked again, but the Rasengan passed harmlessly through Obito. This time, however, Minato's attack created an opening. Obito seized the opportunity, lunging forward with a kunai aimed at Minato's back. The kunai connected. But the Minato he struck vanished in a puff of smoke. Damn it. I've been tricked. Obito knew he'd been tricked. But it was too late. The real Minato appeared behind him, slamming a Rasengan into Obito's back. Boom. Obito was sent flying, his body rolling across the ground. So, your intangibility fails when you attack, doesn't it? Minato looked at Obito, a knowing glint in his eyes. Compared to Minato, Obito's combat experience was far worse. When did you use the shadow clone jutsu? Obito asked coldly after getting to his feet. The Minato he had attacked had been a shadow clone. The real Minato had used that feigned attack to create an opening. Obito's Kamui intangibility had weaknesses. He couldn't attack while intangible because he was phasing through another dimension. To attack, he had to become tangible. He could only maintain intangibility for 5 minutes. Continuous attacks for 5 minutes could break through it. Minato, in a short time, had discovered one of Kamui's weaknesses. A testament to his skill. Minato ignored Obito's question and used the Flying Thunder God technique to close the distance. He had to get rid of this masked man as quickly as possible. There was still a rampaging Ninetales on the other side. Obito used Kamui intangibility again. Obito was starting to realize this was his only reliable technique. He could use wood style, but his skill was rudimentary, and he hadn't mastered Madara's other jutsu yet. Relying on Kamui was fine, but it had already failed him twice. Once against Shin Uzumaki, and now, this time. Damn it. Has the Ninetales broken free? As Obito activated Kamui, he sensed the Ninetales was no longer under his control. This was understandable. His ocular power was waning. Controlling the Ninetales had been a strain. Using Kamui further depleted his chakra. Maintaining control for so long with a single Mangekyo Sharingan was already impressive. Fourth Hokage, you should focus on the Ninetales. Obito looked at Minato and left directly using Kamui, not planning to continue to entangle with Minato Namikaze after fighting for a while. Obito knew that he could not do anything to Minato, and even if he continued to fight, there would be danger. So after weighing the pros and cons, Obito chose to slip away. Minato hesitated. He had secretly left a Flying Thunder God mark on Obito, so pursuing him was possible. But glancing at the rampaging Ninetales, Minato abandoned that idea. Given Obito's space-time ninjutsu, pursuing him might be futile. The Ninetales was the priority. The beast's destructive power, now unchecked, posed a grave threat to Hidden Leaf Village. Minato used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave, heading to assist the other Hidden Leaf Village shinobi. Shin, having seen the original work, knew Obito would gain an advantage against Minato. Your teacher is always your teacher. The current Obito could not defeat Minato Namikaze even if he used all his means. As expected of the strongest tailed beast. Maitru Mummy said, awestruck by the Ninetales' destructive power. She finally understood why Shin had said she was no match for the beast. With a body that big, it has to have some destructive power, Shin said to Maitru Mummy. Tailed beasts were forces of nature. Average shinobi were helpless against them. This was evident in the Hidden Leaf Village shinobi's struggle against the rampaging Ninetales. Even elite Jonin's attacks were just scratching an itch. Hiruzen Sarutobi could only contain the Ninetales, and there was no way to deal with it. The Ninetales is preparing a tail beast bomb. Kushina said, pointing at the swirling chakra gathering in the Ninetales' maw. This time, the target wasn't them, but Hidden Leaf Village itself. Hidden Leaf Village is going to have a hard time blocking that, aren't they? Kushina muttered. A tailed beast bomb could level mountains. As the tailed beast bomb hurtled toward Hidden Leaf Village, Hiruzen and the other shinobi felt despair. Then, Minato arrived. Flying Thunder God. Guiding Thunder, with the Flying Thunder God technique, Minato redirected the tailed beast bomb away from Hidden Leaf Village. He teleported it outside the village, where it obliterated several mountains. As long as Hidden Leaf Village was safe, the damage was acceptable. Minato, you're finally here. Hiruzen sighed in relief. Not just him, but all the Hidden Leaf Village shinobi felt reassured by Minato's arrival. He was their leader, a beacon of hope. Sandaime-sama, we need to seal the Ninetales. Minato said grimly. This wasn't just a disaster for Hidden Leaf Village, but for him personally as well. Yes. Hiruzen Sarutobi originally wanted to ask if the masked man had been caught, but now there was no time to ask this question. Sandaime-sama, we can't let the Ninetales continue rampaging. Is there a way to force it out of the village? Minato Namikaze asked. In fact, he wanted to use the Flying Thunder God technique to teleport the Ninetales away, but he lacked the chakra. He could teleport a person, but not a behemoth like the Ninetales. Let me try. Hiruzen stepped forward, gripping his adamantine staff. Inma, I need your help. Adamantine staff. Extend. The staff extended like Sun Wukong's Ruai Jingbing. Pushing against the Ninetales and forcing it out of the village. The force required for such a feat was immense. Chapter 253, Dead Demon Consuming Seal. Hiruzen Sarutobi. Having exhausted himself pushing the Ninetales out of Hidden Leaf Village, watched as Minato used the Flying Thunder God technique to pursue the beast. They couldn't risk it returning. Minato's mission was to keep the Ninetales occupied outside the village. Hiruzen, after catching his breath, led the remaining Hidden Leaf Village shinobi to support Minato. The shinobi deployed were all elite. Chunin and Gainin weren't involved in direct combat. Their mission was to evacuate the villagers to safety. Hidden Leaf Village is done for this time. That beast is too strong for them. Maitru Mummy said grimly, watching the Ninetales rampage. Looking at the strength of the Ninetales, Maitru Mummy felt that even if three of her went together, she would not be able to do anything to the Ninetales. How can you be so sure? Hidden Leaf Village has its ways of handling tailed beasts, though the price will be steep. Shen said. There were three main methods for dealing with tailed beasts: the Sharingan, wood style, and sealing jutsu. Hidden Leaf Village wouldn't use the Sharingan. Even if they had a Sharingan user capable of controlling the Ninetales, neither Hiruzen nor Minato would allow it. As for wood style, though Yamato might possess it, he was still a child, and his wood style was a weaker version. This left only sealing jutsu. Let's get a closer look. The Ninetales, having been pushed outside Hidden Leaf Village, was no longer visible from Hokage Rock. Shin placed his hands on Kushina and Materumami, teleporting them outside the village, where they hovered in midair. "We're flying?" Materumami looked at Shin with astonishment. "What's so surprising about that?" Shin was used to it. For average shinobi, flight was a distant dream, but in the shinobi world, a select few could achieve it. "Can you teach me?" Materumami asked shyly. "I can't." Shin wasn't being stingy, he genuinely couldn't teach her. He was using repulsive force to levitate, an ability only possible with a Rinnegan, or Tenseigan. Materumami didn't have either. Reaching 6th paths level would grant her flight, but that was as difficult as obtaining the Rinnegan. Other methods involved jutsu like Hanoki's lightweight rock technique, which Shin hadn't bothered to copy. It simply wasn't useful to him. Too bad. Materumami sighed, disappointed. Shin's gaze was on the Ninetales. At this time, the Ninetales was killing wantonly. Neither the Jonin nor the Elite Jonin could withstand a single blow from the Ninetales. Minato could evade its attacks, but his own attacks were ineffective. Against humans, Minato's strength was impressive, but against a tailed beast, his Rasengan was a mere tickle. The Ninetales, however, couldn't land a blow on Minato. "Sandaime-sama, this isn't working. I'm going to use that jutsu," Minato said grimly, approaching Hiruzen. His chakra was almost depleted, he had to end this. Hiruzen knew what Minato meant, the dead demon consuming seal. A Uzumaki clan forbidden sealing technique. It summoned the Shinigami, which severed the target's soul and devoured it, sealing it away permanently. The cost was the user's own soul. It was supposed to be an unbreakable seal, but later in the Naruto timeline, it became possible to undo it. Shin had acquired the technique but never learned it. He had no intention of using such a suicidal jutsu. "Minato, let me do it." "You're still young." "No, Sandaime-sama. I've made up my mind. Please, take care of my and Akiko's child." Minato's resolve was unshakable. Hiruzen looked at Minato, and finally opened his mouth but said nothing. After all, he really didn't want to die. If there was really no other way, Hiruzen would sacrifice himself for Hidden Leaf Village, but now there was someone willing to sacrifice himself. So Hiruzen didn't fight for it. "I'll name my son Naruto, after the character in Jiraiya Sensei's novel." "Minato, let me help you." Akiko Uzumaki suddenly appeared. "Akiko, are you alright?" Minato rushed to her side, worry etched on his face. Akiko didn't answer. Having the tailed beast extracted was a death sentence for most, but Akiko, as an Uzumaki, still clung to life. Though not for long. Adamantine sealing chains, Akiko used the Uzumaki clan sealing technique, binding the rampaging Ninetales. "Sandaime-sama, please bring Naruto here." Minato's voice was firm. "Minato, are you planning to?" Hiruzen realized Minato intended to make his newborn son the Ninetales Jinchuriki. "It's the only way. Consider it a gift from a neglectful father," Minato said. If used correctly, the Ninetales' power was a powerful asset. He believed his son could control it. He didn't know what kind of life Naruto would face. If he knew, would he regret this decision? Hiruzen nodded. Making Minato's son the Jinchuriki was beneficial to Hidden Leaf Village. And only an Uzumaki could properly contain the Ninetales. Minato's son, having Uzumaki blood, was a suitable vessel. Naruto was brought to them. Minato, seeing Akiko had restrained the Ninetales, didn't hesitate. He began forming the hand seals for the dead demon-consuming seal. Sealing jutsu, dead demon-consuming seal, a massive, spectral figure. The Shinigami appeared behind Minato. The Ninetales, sensing the danger, roared in fury. Chapter 254, Want to share the spoils afterwards? Shin stared intently at the Shinigami. He could sense 6 paths level power emanating from it. Kushina was also curiously staring at the Shinigami. Although she knew about the dead demon-consuming seal, this was the first time Kushina had seen someone use it. After all, unless it was absolutely necessary, who would use this kind of sealing technique that would take their own life? So that creepy thing is the Shinigami? Just looking at it makes me uncomfortable, Kushina said, a shiver running down her spine. She felt like her soul was being scrutinized. It has 6 paths level power, Shin said. He was curious about the Shinigami's origins. The original story never explained it. At this time, the Shinigami moved, its spectral blade slicing through the nine tails. Half of the beast's chakra was sealed. Minato sealed the other half within his newborn son. Before being sealed, the nine tails lashed out with its claws, piercing Minato and Akiko. A final act of defiance, though it hardly mattered, they were already dying. Minato Namikage's soul was devoured by the Shinigami, and then the Shinigami raised its head and glanced in Shin's direction. Oh? It noticed me. Shin was surprised. He suspected the Shinigami wasn't a living being, but something akin to a puppet. Who controlled it? Perhaps Hagoromo Otsutsuki, or perhaps his brother, Hamura. Shin was certain Hagoromo was still alive, but he wasn't sure about Hamura. If Hamura was still alive, he would have appeared when Shin destroyed the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Shin dismissed the thought. It was pointless to speculate. The Shinigami vanished, and Shin didn't make a move to keep this Shinigami. He could easily summon the Shinigami himself if he needed to, by controlling a puppet with his Rin-Tenseigen and having it perform the dead demon-consuming seal. The Nine Tails incident is over, and the system didn't even issue a mission. Shin muttered to himself. Originally, Shin thought that the system might issue a mission this time. But nothing. He still hadn't figured out the rules for the system to issue missions. It felt like issuing missions was really random. Hiruzen cradled the infant Naruto, his gaze fixed on Minato and Akiko's bodies, grief etched on his face. This had been a devastating blow to Hidden Leaf Village, not just the physical damage, but the loss of their Hokage. Don't publicize the matter about the fourth son. Hiruzen Sarutobi said seriously to the surrounding shinobi. Yes, Sandaime-sama. Denzo, where were you when Hidden Leaf Village was in danger? Hiruzen sighed, thinking of Denzo's inaction. With such a big movement, Hiruzen would definitely not believe it if Denzo said he didn't know. Not a single member of the Root organization came over. Obviously Denzo was doing it on purpose. Just as he thought of Denzo, the man arrived, flanked by Root members. Am I late? Denzo asked, looking at Minato's body with a deceptively calm expression. Inwardly, he was ecstatic. Minato's death meant he had a chance to become the next Hokage. He had almost given up hope. Given Minato's age, he didn't know how long he would be in the Hokage position. Now that Minato was dead, Denzo's heart was once again hopeful. This time he was determined to win the position of Hokage. Denzo didn't believe that anyone else could compete with him. Denzo, where were you? Hiruzen questioned Denzo sternly, his voice sharp. Glancing at Hiruzen, Denzo had already thought of his excuse. I was evacuating the villagers. Is there a problem? Denzo said to Hiruzen with a calm face. Hiruzen was furious. Denzo, a high-level combatant, had chosen to evacuate villagers instead of fighting the Nine Tails. He couldn't fault Denzo for prioritizing the villagers, though. Is that Minato Namikage's son, the new Nine Tails Jinchuriki? Denzo's gaze was on the crying Naruto. His true motive for coming was to gain control of the Jinchuriki. Though absent during the attack, he had been well informed. Hiruzen looked at Denzo. What do you want? He knew Denzo too well. Hiruzen knew that Denzo would never say meaningless things. Mentioning Naruto definitely had something to do. Hiruzen, entrust the Nine Tails Jinchuriki to Root. Only we can properly train him to be a weapon for Hidden Leaf Village. Denzo said his purpose. He had done nothing during the crisis, and now he wanted to share a piece of the pie afterwards. Disgusting. If Shin had been there, he would have slapped Denzo senseless, but Hiruzen wouldn't do that. Denzo, Naruto is the fourth son. What do you think he is? Hiruzen questioned Denzo angrily. A Jinchuriki is just a tool for the village. Denzo said coldly. He wasn't wrong. Except for Hidden Cloud's village, most villages treated their Jinchuriki as weapons. Hidden Cloud's village was different because Killer Bee was the fourth Raikage's adopted brother. Denzo, give up. I won't hand Minato's son over to you. Don't even think about it, Hiruzen said firmly, his eyes narrowed dangerously. Denzo, sensing Hiruzen's resolve, knew he wouldn't get Naruto. But he hadn't given up. He turned to another matter. The Hokage position. Hidden Leaf Village couldn't remain leaderless. This, after all, was his true objective. Chapter 255, I don't want to be the scapegoat. Hiruzen narrowed his eyes at Denzo. He knew exactly what Denzo was after. The Hokage position. And because he knew Denzo so well, he wouldn't let him have his way. I will temporarily assume the role of Hokage until a suitable successor is found. Hiruzen announced, dashing Denzo's hopes. Denzo's previously expressionless face immediately turned gloomy. Hiruzen, you should know what I want, right? He couldn't believe Hiruzen was feigning ignorance. Why? Why was it so difficult for him to become Hokage? Denzo, Your personality isn't suited for the Hokage position. Entrusting Hidden Leaf Village to you would be disastrous. Hiruzen acknowledged Denzo's abilities, but his extreme methods were unsuitable for leading Hidden Leaf Village. Denzo's expression grew even darker. Hiruzen was questioning his capabilities, insulting him. Hiruzen ignored Denzo's reaction. He had more pressing matters to attend to than Denzo's bruised ego. What were they talking about? Kushina asked Shin, curious. Shin, Kushina, and Maître Umami hadn't left. They had witnessed Denzo's arrival, but they were too far away to hear the conversation. That idiot Denzo wants the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and the Hokage position, Shin said to Kushina and Maître Umami. He was genuinely astonished by Denzo's audacity. The man had done nothing during the crisis, and now he wanted a share of the power? I knew he was shameless, but not this shameless. I'm impressed, Kushina said, shaking her head. Akiko is dead, it seems only the two of us are left of the Uzumaki clan. Kushina's voice was subdued. Then we have to work hard, Shin said, winking at her suggestively. Kushina didn't understand at first, then her face turned bright pink as she realized what he meant. Shin, you jerk. Saying that, Kushina raised her fist and punched him playfully, but Shin caught her fist, gazing at her with mock affection. The originally shy and annoyed Kushina, looking at Shin's loving gaze, suddenly became embarrassed. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked, fidgeting slightly. Because I love you, Shin said with a smile, then kissed her gently. Hey. Am I invisible? Maître Umami interjected, annoyed at being ignored while being force-fed their affection for each other. Kushina glared at Maître Umami, her romantic moment ruined. She regretted bringing Mai along. Are we going back now? Kushina asked Shin. Yeah, but it's almost dawn. Let's have breakfast in Hidden Leaf Village first. Shin descended from the sky with Kushina and Maître Umami, landing near the site of the battle. Hiruzen and the other shinobi had already left, but Denzo was still there, his expression stormy. Uzumaki Shin, what are you doing here? Denzo couldn't help but ask. Could it be that this Nine-Tails rampage was related to Uzumaki Shin? Shin glanced at him, sensing Denzo's suspicion. This had to be clarified. He wasn't going to take the blame for Obito's actions. Are you accusing me of attacking Hidden Leaf Village? Shin asked calmly, though his words carried an undercurrent of menace. Denzo felt a wave of pressure and instinctively touched his bandaged arm. Even with a Sharingan, he felt no safer. If I attacked Hidden Leaf Village, do you think Hidden Leaf Village would still exist? Shin took Kushina and Maître Umami's hands and laughed. Shin had subtly trapped him in a Ganjutsu, a mental pressure that left the old warhawk shaken. Denzo believed Shin. It wasn't that he trusted Shin, but Shin had no reason to lie. If Shin had attacked, Hidden Leaf Village would be in ruins, not just heavily damaged. Several hours later, dawn broke, revealing the devastation wrought by the Nine-Tails. Fortunately, the tailed beast bomb hadn't hit the village directly, otherwise, Hidden Leaf Village would have been obliterated. A tailed beast bomb from the Nine-Tails could easily level mountains. Looks like we won't be finding anywhere to eat breakfast, Shin sighed, walking through Hidden Leaf Village's normally bustling food street. Though spared from the Nine-Tails' rampage, the area was deserted. The villagers were all taking refuge in the shelters. Who would open a shop at this time? We were idiots for even trying, Kushina said, smacking her forehead. She actually followed Shin in to eat breakfast. Hidden Leaf Village had just experienced a disaster. Who would have such a big heart to open up for business at this time? We? Did you just lump me in with you? Maître Umami pointed at herself. Yeah, do you think you're smart? Kushina replied, looking at Maître Umami. Actually, I realized that earlier. Maître Umami admitted. Shin and Kushina exchanged a look, then simultaneously flicked Maître Umami on the forehead. If you knew, why didn't you say anything? Were you just waiting to laugh at us? Shin and Kushina said in unison. Maître Umami felt a surge of indignation. Back in Hidden Mist Village, she was the one who did the bullying, now she was being ganged up on. You're ganging up on me. How shameless. Maître Umami grumbled. Chapter 256, The Uchiha Clan's Bitter Pill. Let's go. Time to leave Hidden Leaf Village. After walking around the street, he didn't even see a single person. Shin couldn't help but sigh. Was a mere Nine-Tails attack enough to scare everyone into hiding? He went to Akiraku Ramen to take a look. He thought that Uncle Akiraku, who remained unflappable during Pain's assault, would be there, but the fact was that Shin was overthinking it. Shin had hoped to see the legendary Otsutsuki Tuki. But it seemed he was just a ramen chef after all. Yamatsu Hirasaka. Shin opened a portal, taking Kushina and Maître Umami with him. They could still make it back in time for Mikoto's breakfast. Hiruzen wasn't aware of their departure, he was busy assessing the damage. The destroyed buildings were a minor issue. Money could fix that. Though Hidden Leaf Village's funds were low, the Land of Fire's daimyo would provide financial support. As the strongest military force in the Land of Fire, the daimyo would not be ambiguous about financial matters. The real loss was the shinobi who had died. The Third Shinobi World War had already weakened Hidden Leaf Village, and now, with the Nine Tails attack and Minato's death, they had lost many of their strongest fighters. Hiruzen worried that other villages might exploit Hidden Leaf Village's vulnerability. He set that concern aside for the moment, summoning the village elders and clan heads. He announced his return as a Hokage and the upcoming funeral for Minato Namikaze as the fourth Hokage. A hero who sacrificed his life for Hidden Leaf Village, Minato deserved the highest honors. Of course, a grand funeral wouldn't bring him back. Taking care of his son would be more meaningful. As the meeting concluded, Hiruzen's gaze turned to the current Uchiha clan head, Fugaku Uchiha. Fugaku, I expect an explanation. The other clan heads and elders looked at Fugaku. Some people showed expressions of enjoying the show. The Nine-Tails seal had been broken by a new Uchiha, evidenced by the Sharingan seen in the Nine-Tails' eyes during the attack. Fugaku's face darkened. He knew this was coming. This matter would definitely be suspected to be related to their Uchiha clan. Fugaku knew his clan well, even he wasn't sure he could control the Nine-Tails, let alone the other Uchiha clan members. Sandame Hokage, this has nothing to do with the Uchiha clan. There are others with the Sharingan. Shin Uzumaki, for example. He's far more likely a suspect. Fugaku Uchiha stood up and said, "This matter must be cleared up, otherwise the Uchiha clan would have a hard time in Hidden Leaf Village in the future. And I also got the news before that Shin Uzumaki came to Hidden Leaf Village yesterday." Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe. In fact, Hiruzen Sarutobi had also suspected Shin Uzumaki in his heart. However, the suspicion was quickly dismissed. If Shin had been involved, the attack wouldn't have ended so easily. The masked man yesterday didn't look like Shin Uzumaki either. His hair wasn't red, and he was wearing a mask. If it was Shin Uzumaki, then he probably wouldn't bother to hide at all if he wanted to deal with Hidden Leaf Village. Fugaku, if those words reached Shin's ears, do you think he'd pay the Uchiha clan a visit? Shikaku Nara asked calmly, looking at Fugaku. Fugaku Uchiha's face darkened, then he fell silent. To be honest, he was afraid of Shin. During the Second Shinobi World War, Shin had barged into enemy camps. He had the guts and the strength to do anything. The Uchiha clan is the prime suspect. I expect your full cooperation, Fugaku. Hiruzen's tone brooked no argument. He genuinely suspected the Uchiha clan's involvement. Fugaku had been a contender for the Hokage position, but Hiruzen had vetoed his candidacy. The Uchiha clan had been resentful and increasingly restless. Hiruzen's suspicion wasn't entirely baseless. Of course, he also harbored some prejudice against the Uchiha clan, just like Denzo. As Tobirama Senju's students, they'd both been influenced by his distrust of the Uchiha. Hiruzen wasn't as extreme as Denzo, but he had been slowly marginalizing the Uchiha clan, pushing them out of Hidden Leaf Village's power structure. The final decision was to relocate the Uchiha clan to Hidden Leaf Village's outskirts, away from the village center. Fugaku was furious, but he couldn't refuse. Even the radical Denzo suggested wiping out the Uchiha clan entirely, which almost made Fugaku lose it. He had to swallow this bitter pill. Within days, news of the Nine-Tails attack spread throughout the shinobi world. Hiruzen had tried to contain it, but such a major event couldn't be kept secret. Upon learning of Hidden Leaf Village's losses, the fourth Raikage saw an opportunity. Hidden Leaf Village was weakened, having lost their Hokage and many elite Jonin. It was the perfect time to strike. Chapter 257, You were radiating dumb energy just now in the land of whirlpools. Oblivious to the turmoil in the outside world, Shin had a sudden inspiration. He wanted to create a puppet like Sasori's third Kazekage puppet. He'd use the third Raikage's body, which he still had. Given the Raikage's incredible durability, a puppet made from his body would be far stronger than Sasori's masterpiece. Controlling it with chakra strings is too rubbish. Shin muttered, holding a black chakra receiver rod made from yin-yang style. He wanted to create puppets like the 6 Paths of Pain, not those manipulated with strings. However, Nagato's 6 Paths of Pain had a weakness. They couldn't stray too far from Nagato himself. Mine will definitely be better than Nagato's. As Shin said this, he stabbed the black receiver in his hand into the third Raikage's corpse. The rods themselves were powerful weapons, capable of sealing chakra points and disrupting a target's ability to mold chakra. Especially effective against tailed beasts. Similar to the Hyuga clan's Gentle Fist, the rods could neutralize an opponent's chakra and even counter those reanimated with the summoning, impure world reincarnation. Shin had imbued these rods with his will, allowing him to control the third Raikage's body. Nagato used similar rods, imbued with the outer path's power, to control his 6 paths of pain. He inserted 5 rods. 1 in each limb and 1 in the head. And the puppet was complete. The yin-yang style black receivers completely entered the third Raikage's body. From the outside, it was completely invisible. It wasn't like Nagato's, which had black receivers all over his head and face. Is that thing even useful? Kushina asked Shin. Kushina had been watching him tinker with the puppet for a while. She was getting impatient. She also wanted Shin to teach her wood-style ninjutsu, but Shin was busy with this thing. Useful? Good question. To be honest, not really. Shin shook his head. The puppet wouldn't increase his combat strength. Then why bother making it? I was bored. Shin had created the puppet on a whim. If Shin's actions were known to the 4th Raikage, he would probably ignore the difference in strength and come to find Shin to fight desperately. If you're bored, teach me wood style. I can't wait to beat Tsunade with it. Kushina said, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. The thought of using a Senju clan Kekkei Genkai to defeat Tsunade was incredibly appealing. Although the Senju clan's true Kekkei Genkai was the sage body, the shinobi world considered wood style their signature ability. Seeing Kushina radiating giddy excitement, Shin took a step back, afraid her goofiness might be contagious. What's wrong? Kushina glared at him, noticing his wary expression. You were radiating dumb energy just now. I didn't want to catch it. Shin said honestly. Ah, you're asking for a beating. Shin. If I don't beat you up today, I'll take your last name. Kushina yelled, charging at him. Even if you took my last name, you'd still be in Uzumaki. What's the difference? Shin dodged her attack, chuckling at her empty threat. He wondered why she always resorted to biting and pouncing. After chasing him for a while, Kushina, unable to catch him, huffed and sat down on the ground, defeated. Can't you just let me win for once? She grumbled. Nope. I don't like losing. Shin replied, sitting down beside her. Seeing him so close, Kushina's eyes lit up. She lunged at him. Thud. And face planted on the ground. She had phased right through him. She scrambled up, glancing around to make sure no one had witnessed her embarrassing tumble. Fortunately, Mikoto, Konan, and Tsunade weren't around. How did I pass through you? Is that a Genjutsu? Nope. Space-time ninjutsu. I can become intangible and immune to all attacks. Shin explained, though immune to all attacks wasn't entirely accurate. Techniques like Yamatsu Hirasaka, which allowed one to enter another dimension, or the Sealing Jutsu, spatial lock, could counter it. That's amazing. Too bad I don't have a talent for space-time ninjutsu. Kushina said, a bit dejected. Even if you did, you couldn't learn it. Shin said, shaking his head. Kamyu was a Mengekyo Sharingan ability, not a ninjutsu. Even with a talent for space-time ninjutsu, she wouldn't be able to learn it. As for developing a similar jutsu, even Shin couldn't do that. Forget about that. I'll let you off the hook this time. Teach me wood style. I want to learn the wood human technique. Kushina, knowing she couldn't defeat him, graciously accepted defeat. Hold on. Let me test this puppet first. Shin looked at the third Raikage puppet. He hadn't had a chance to properly examine it earlier. He controlled the puppet, activating lightning-style chakra mode, and various ninjutsu and taijutsu techniques the third Raikage had used in life. As expected, the puppet could use them all. Now for the main event. Shin's eyes transformed into the Naitomo Irin Tenseigan. And the puppet's eyes also shifted. Though they only became a standard Rinnegan. Can't handle it, huh? Shin noted that the puppet's body couldn't withstand the full power of the Naitomo Irin Tenseigan. Only the Rinnegan or Tenseigan individually. More useless than I thought. But with the Rinnegan's power, it's still decent. Shin had created the puppet on a whim, its usefulness was secondary. It could be a convenient errand boy. Chapter 258, Shall we spar? Shin controlled the third Raikage puppet, sending it out of the Land of Whirlpools to gather intel. Although the Land of Whirlpools was peaceful, it was also isolated. Shin wanted to keep abreast of events in the shinobi world. The puppet would be his eyes and ears. It was controlled by Shin's will. What it saw and heard, Shin saw and heard. Distance wasn't an issue, unless the puppet went to the moon. It was a perfect, mobile spy. Though not without drawbacks. Shin had to divert some of his attention to control it. This wasn't a problem for him, multitasking was easy. He could withdraw his control when the puppet wasn't needed, though it would become an inanimate corpse then. Therefore, when he withdrew the mind controlling the third Raikage in the future, he would also have to control the third Raikage to find a deserted place, so as not to be mistaken for a dead person and be buried. Having dispatched the puppet, Shin began teaching Kushina wood-style ninjutsu. In the original story, Hashirama Senju could seemingly use wood-style with a single hand seal, but in reality, it was more complex. Perhaps with mastery, a single seal would suffice, but Kushina wasn't there yet. Learning wood-style wasn't difficult. As long as you had the KK Genkai. Shin spent the day instructing Kushina, and by nightfall, she had learned the wood human technique, and the wood dragon technique. As for other ninjutsu such as wood style, advent of a world of flowering trees, Kushina had already learned them completely before. It's getting dark. Let's head back. Shin pulled Kushina away. She seemed a bit too engrossed in her training. As they returned, they heard Tsunada's laughter echoing from inside the house. What's with Tsunada? Did something good happen? Shin wondered. No idea. She's probably just being silly. Kushina replied, though Shin couldn't help but recall how Kushina herself had been radiating goofy energy earlier. What are you looking at? Kushina glared at him, sensing his amusement. Just thinking how beautiful you are. Really? Kushina's face lit up, her suspicion forgotten. Shin pushed the door open with a smile and walked in. As expected, Kushina was easily fooled. Just a compliment could solve everything. Tsunada, we heard you laughing all the way outside. What's so funny? Shin asked Tsunada after entering the house. Seeing Shin come in, Tsunada stood up excitedly, and then came to Shin's side, tightly grabbing Shin's shoulders. Shin, I finally did it. I learned wood style. Her excitement was understandable. She had put in so much effort. Finally seeing results was exhilarating. Calm down. I wasn't that excited when I learned it. Kushina said, trying to act like a seasoned veteran, though inwardly, she wasn't sure whether to be happy or disappointed for Tsunada. Kushina had been looking forward to using wood style to get back at Tsunada for all the childhood bullying. But now. Kushina, do you want me to punch you? Tsunada glared at her, annoyed by Kushina's condescending attitude. What? Just because you learned wood style, you think you're hot stuff now? Kushina retorted, bristling. You've just learned wood style. How many ninjutsu do you even know? Do you want to go outside and have a spar? Kushina was confident Tsunada couldn't match her wood style skills. Sure. Why not? Tsunada wasn't backing down. Although she had learned it later than Kushina, she had spent years researching it. Except for the sage art techniques. She felt confident she could handle anything. Go spar outside. We're about to eat. Mikoto and Conan emerged from the kitchen, carrying dishes laden with food. Let's do it tomorrow. If you lose, you have to call me Tsunada-an-sama respectfully. Tsunada said, confident in her abilities. She'd always been able to suppress Kushina, she didn't think that had changed. Fine. I wouldn't want you to think I'm afraid of you. Kushina was equally confident. Hey. No stealing. Shin smacked Maitru Mummy's hand with his chopsticks as she reached for a tempura. He then popped the tempura into his own mouth. You're one to talk. Maitru Mummy said indignantly, slapping his arm lightly. Shin, unfazed by her slap, flicked her forehead in retaliation. Maitru Mummy yelped. It actually hurt. She glared at him. How dare he hit a beautiful girl like her? You're about to cry from a flick? If I punched you, you'd probably bawl your eyes out. Shin teased with a smile. Maitru Mummy fumed. He was a demon. If she could defeat him, she'd bite him to death. Shin chuckled. He enjoyed teasing Maitru Mummy and watching her get angry. Her angry expression was really cute. If Maitru Mummy knew Shin's evil thoughts, she would probably cry out loud. Chapter 259, Kushina vs Tsunada. The next morning, Shin and Conan emerged from the same room together. Mikoto and Maitru Mummy, in the living room, exchanged knowing glances. Conan blushed and looked down, acutely aware of the implications. You two weren't exactly quiet last night. Maitru Mummy teased, noticing Conan's embarrassment. Conan blushed even deeper but quickly schooled her expression into a mask of indifference. She knew Maitru Mummy would continue teasing if she reacted. Where are Kushina and Tsunada? Still asleep? Shin asked Mikoto. They're already up. Didn't they say they were going to spar? They're probably at it already. Mikoto replied with a smile. And you didn't stop them? Shin looked at her, surprised. They wouldn't get hurt, and I couldn't stop them anyway. Mikoto said with a shrug. Is that so? Shin gave her a dubious look. Although Mikoto was gentle most of the time, she had a mischievous streak. Perhaps she was deliberately watching them fight. Shin, you don't trust me? Mikoto asked, pouting slightly. Looking at Mikoto's pouting and unhappy face, Shin found her a bit cute and couldn't help but walk over and give her a kiss. And Mikoto blushed, playfully punching him lightly. It wasn't that she was shy, but she was self-conscious in front of Conan and Maitru Mummy. Maitru Mummy watched Shin and Mikoto, a strange feeling tightening in her chest. A pang of jealousy, Perhaps? Could it be? I'm actually interested in this bully? She was shocked by the thought. No way, she definitely couldn't have feelings for this jerk who liked to bully her. She wasn't a masochist. Hey, what are you doing? Shin's voice startled her, pulling her out of her thoughts. Shin called out to Maitre Mummy, who was immersed in her inner world. Looking at Shin, who was very close to her, Maitre Mummy's face suddenly turned red, and she asked stammeringly. What? Why did your face suddenly turn red? Are you realizing how handsome I am? Shin asked with a smile. And no. Maitre Mummy's denial was weak, even to her own ears. Though Shin was annoying, he was undeniably attractive. If only he'd stop teasing her. Let's go check on Kushina and Tsunade. Hopefully, they haven't sunk the land of whirlpools yet. Shin led Mikoto, Conan, and Maitre Mummy towards Kushina and Tsunade. His concern wasn't entirely a joke. If Kushina and Tsunade went all out, they could potentially sink the small island nation. Although Shin didn't know where Kushina and Tsunade were, Shin had left a marker on them. They're really fighting. Shin stared at the two colossal wooden figures battling each other. Kushina and Tsunade were each controlling a 100-meter-tall, wood human. The destructive power was immense. Each blow could shatter mountains. The surrounding area had been transformed into a basin. Is that wood style? Maitre Mummy's jaw dropped. She suddenly regretted giving up on learning it. Amazing. Conan also stared, though she was less surprised than Maitre Mummy. Having traveled with Shin, she'd seen incredible things. Mikoto wasn't surprised either. Though she couldn't use wood style, she had the Susanoo, a worthy opponent for the wood human. With a Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, she could manifest a perfect Susanoo, more than capable of handling the wood human. The reason why Madara Uchiha lost to Hashirama Senju's wood style was mainly that Hashirama Senju's sage art wood style was too abnormal. Shin, should we stop them? Mikoto asked. Nah, let them have their fun. Shin replied, shaking his head. Kushina, your wood human can't beat mine. I'm suppressing you. Tsunade taunted. You're lying. I'm clearly winning. Kushina retorted. In reality, neither was winning. The two wood humans were evenly matched. Wood style, wood dragon jutsu, wood style, wood dragon jutsu. Perhaps it was because of tacit understanding, Kushina and Tsunade used wood dragon technique together. The wood dragon jutsu, capable of absorbing chakra, had played a key role in Hashirama Senju's victory against Madara Uchiha and the Nine Tails. However, with both of them using the same technique, Kushina's wood dragon coiled around Tsunade's wood human, absorbing its chakra, while Tsunade's wood dragon did the same to Kushina's wood human. Who's going to win? Maitre Mummy asked. They'll be at it forever. Shin glanced at Maitre Mummy and said. If they didn't get tired or hungry, they'd never reach a conclusion. They knew the same techniques, their chakra reserves were similar. There was no way to determine a victor. Unless they use other jutsu, wood style alone won't settle this. Mikoto had also realized a stalemate. Not just them, but Kushina and Tsunade had also come to the same conclusion. Still, neither was willing to admit defeat. Boom. The two wood humans' fists collided, then both figures staggered back, their fists splintering and scattering wood chips everywhere. The damage quickly regenerated, just like the Susanoo. That punch could shatter a mountain, couldn't it? Maitre Mummy said, awestruck. It could. It's about as strong as a perfect Susanoo. Mikoto confirmed. The wood human's destructive power rivaled that of the perfect Susanoo. Mikoto, with her perfect Susanoo, could level a mountain. The wood human could do the same. I wish I had a jutsu that powerful. That's not even ninjutsu anymore, it's practically a god art. Maitre Mummy looked at Kushina and Tsunade with envy. Chapter 260, Would it kill you to compliment me? Shin looked at Maitre Mummy's envious expression and patted her shoulder. Don't be too impressed. The wood human is powerful, but it has its weaknesses. Its massive size limited its mobility. The Susanoo shared the same weakness. Against a fast, agile opponent, landing a blow could be difficult. If you're fast enough, you can easily dodge its attacks. Shin said. How fast do I have to be? That punch could shatter a mountain. Can I even dodge that? Maitre Mummy asked, a bit exasperated. That's a valid concern. But if you used Sage Mode and focused on evasion, you should be fine. Shin estimated that Maitre Mummy, even with Sage Mode, would struggle to outrun the wood human, but escaping its attacks wouldn't be a problem. If you learned the Flying Thunder God technique, like Conan, you'd have no problem at all. Shin said. Maitre Mummy glanced at Conan. I'm starting to think I'm the weakest here. Shin was in a league of his own. Maitre Mummy didn't even know the extent of his power. According to Conan and the others' description, he was practically a god. Conan had the Flying Thunder God technique. Kushina and Tsunade had wood style. Mikoto had the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Compared to them, her Kekkei Genkai seemed underwhelming. Her pride instantly shattered. Shin looked at Mai strangely. Did she only realize now that she was the weakest? Mikoto, where are you going? Shin asked, noticing Mikoto leaving. Their fight is going nowhere. We can't just stand here and watch. Let's have a picnic. I'm going to get some supplies. Mikoto replied with a smile. I want grilled fish. Matru Mummy perked up, her earlier gloom forgotten. Since we're having a picnic, let's divide the tasks. Mai. You're on fish duty. Conan and I will hunt in the forest. Shin took Conan's hand and left. Mikoto went home to gather supplies, leaving Matru Mummy to head for the coast. The shore wasn't far, and with teleportation jutsu, Matru Mummy arrived quickly. Within minutes, they were ready. Shin had caught several plump rabbits, Conan had gathered wild vegetables. Matru Mummy returned with a dozen fish. Combined with the food Mikoto brought, it was a feast. Shin took charge of grilling the fish and meat, while Mikoto and Conan prepared the rest. Anything I can do? Matru Mummy asked, seeing she was the only one idle. Not really. Shin didn't trust her cooking skills. She wasn't quite dark cuisine level. But she was still a culinary disaster. Soon, the aroma of grilled food wafted across the training grounds, reaching Kushina and Tsunade, who stopped fighting. They hadn't eaten breakfast, they were starving. Truce? Kushina asked Tsunade. Sure. There's no point in continuing to fight. Tsunade agreed. They'd been fighting for hours with no clear victor, their chakra was depleted. It was time for a break. Why did you two stop? We were enjoying the show. Shin couldn't help but say when he saw Tsunade and Kushina come over. Why you were enjoying the show? I'll bite you to death. Kushina yelled, lunging at Shin. Stop, here's some grilled fish. Shin immediately handed the grilled fish he had just grilled to Kushina. Humphrey, for the sake of the grilled fish, I'll let you off the hook this time. Kushina took the grilled fish and started eating it happily. It was a familiar taste. It had been a long time since she had eaten the food made by Shin, especially the barbecue made by Shin. Shin, did you teach Tsunade the wood-style ninjutsu? Kushina asked. Originally, Kushina thought that Tsunade still wouldn't know any wood-style ninjutsu, so she thought her fight with Tsunade would be a sure win. No, she learned it herself. Tsunade has been researching wood style for so long, it's not easy to learn wood style ninjutsu. Shin replied. By the way, if you two want to spar in the future, do it somewhere else. Don't wreck the land of whirlpools. Shin looked at the massive crater they'd created. Yeah, you two practically caused an earthquake. Mikoto added. Did we? Kushina and Tsunade hadn't noticed, they'd been too focused on their fight. Look at that crater. Oops. Kushina stuck out her tongue sheepishly. I can't help it, I'm just too strong. Don't get cocky. You're not that strong yet. Shin said. Would it kill you to compliment me? Kushina glared at Shin, annoyed by his criticism. I'm not praising you because I don't want you to be too cocky, so you don't think you're invincible. You two chat slowly, we have eaten everything. Tsunade said to Shin and Kushina. Shin immediately turned his head and looked. Looking at the last meat skewer left, he was speechless. This is mine. Kushina snatched the last skewer. Guess I'll have to make my own. Shin sighed and grabbed some raw skewers, starting to grill them. It's so delicious. It feels even better than the grilled meat I ate at the restaurant in Hidden Leaf Village. If you open a barbecue restaurant, Shin, it will definitely be a hit. Matru Mummy said. Chapter 261, When the Fourth Raikage Meets at Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Clouds Village's little spat is hardly worth watching. Shin, learning that Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Clouds Village were at war again, felt a flicker of interest. Until he saw the scale of their war. And his excitement fizzled into disappointment. This wasn't a war, it was a playground squabble. Nothing like a true shinobi world war. Each side had only sent a few hundred ninja. Not even their Kage had bothered to show up. The commanders were just elite jonin. How underwhelming. Shin was currently in the land of whirlpools, observing the conflict through his third Raikage puppet. Unbeknownst to him. A, the fourth Raikage, and Killer B, the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, had left Hidden Clouds Village. Their target. Shin's third Raikage puppet. Shin, controlling the puppet and traveling openly, had inadvertently revealed its existence to. Upon hearing about his father's reappearance, A had initially been furious, assuming it was a hoax. But when presented with undeniable proof, he couldn't ignore it. He had to see for himself. Brother, is the news true? Killer B asked, his usual boisterous demeanor replaced by a rare seriousness. He didn't want to be on the receiving end of A's wrath. A had repeatedly warned him to drop the ridiculous rapping, especially the casual insults. B's raps often included words like fool and idiot. And A wasn't about to tolerate being called an idiot by his own brother. Besides, this involved his father. B wouldn't be flippant about such a matter. Not confirmed yet. I hope it's not Shin Uzumaki's doing. Lightning crackled around A, his anger palpable. He wanted revenge for his father's death, but he lacked the strength. Even after becoming Raikage, he hadn't acted rashly. As a Kage, he had to be responsible for the people in his village. Dodai, his advisor, had also helped him maintain his composure. This time, however, A had left without informing Dodai. If Dodai knew, he wouldn't have allowed it. As the village's Kage, whether for his own safety or for the village, he shouldn't leave the village without authorization. Intel suggests father was last seen in the land of rice paddies. We're close behind. A, enveloped in lightning chakra mode, vanished in a blur of speed. Brother, wait up. You. Idiot. Bastard. Killer B yelled after him. After traveling for half a day, they reached the land of rice paddies. A, exhausted, collapsed to the ground. Phi. Finally caught up. Almost lost him. Killer B also slumped down, his chakra and stamina depleted. And even borrowed Tails' chakra. Unlike other Jinchuriki, B had a perfect synergy with the Eight Tails, who willingly lend him power. We'll rest tonight, then begin our search tomorrow. I want to see who's impersonating my father. A's anger hadn't subsided. He didn't believe his father was truly alive. His anger hadn't clouded his judgment, though. He wouldn't act rashly. He suspected this might be Shin Uzumaki's doing, and in his current state, confronting Shin would be suicide. After resting for the night, A, fully recovered, resumed the search with Killer B. He had already dispatched scouts. Soon, they had the puppet's location. Let's go. A, with Killer B at his side, headed towards the location, his fury simmering. Following the scouts' intel, they finally cornered the third Raikage puppet. Shin, observing them through the puppet, found the situation awkward. Son, call me Dad, Shin blurted out through the puppet, breaking the tense silence. The fourth Raikage's face turned red. It was the redness of anger. Who exactly are you? The fourth Raikage asked angrily. You ungrateful brat. You don't even recognize your own father? Shin said, channeling the third Raikage's gruff persona, though inwardly, he was struggling to contain his laughter. Lightning crackled around A, his hair standing on end like a Super Saiyan. Are you going to attack your own father? The third Raikage asked calmly. You're not my father. A roared, lunging forward with a punch. Despite the perfect disguise, even the voice, the tone was wrong. The puppet effortlessly caught A's punch. What? You're Shin Uzumaki? Impressive. You actually figured it out. Though, you'd be a disgrace as Raikage if you didn't. Why are you impersonating my father? A's eyes were bloodshot. He assumed Shin was using a transformation jutsu. You're mistaken. I'm not impersonating anyone. This is the third Raikage, your father. What? What do you mean? A's fists trembled, a sense of dread washing over him. You might be all muscle, but I hope your brain isn't made of it too. Can't you figure it out? You turned my father God into a puppet? A's worst fears were confirmed, though he'd been unwilling to believe it. His father was dead, and now his body was being desecrated. He swore he'd kill Shin Uzumaki. Chapter 262, Father Beats Son. The fourth Raikage gritted his teeth, his eyes turning blood red from excessive anger. You bastard. Killer B was also very resentful. The third Raikage was his foster father. And he was also very good to him. Killer B couldn't tolerate Uzumaki Shin's behavior. Turning someone's father into a puppet was despicable, but did Shinobi even care about morality? Compared to Tobirama Senshu's summoning, impure world reincarnation, which manipulated even the souls of the dead, this was relatively tame. After all, the summoning, impure world reincarnation didn't even spare the soul, making it so you couldn't even have peace after death. Uzumaki Shin, you better return my father's body, or I'll kill you. The fourth Raikage said, suppressing the anger in his heart. Return it? Sure. Come and get it. Shin appeared atop a nearby tree. Shin had placed a flying thunder god mark on the puppet, making teleportation easy. Though he could see and hear through the puppet, he preferred observing in person. Although he could also know everything that happened through the third Raikage's perspective, Shin still felt that it was more comfortable to see it in person. Seeing Shin appear, the fourth Raikage couldn't help but take a few steps back. You're afraid of me, yet you threatened to kill me? How amusing. Shin's mockery fueled A's rage and embarrassment. Why was he afraid of his father's killer? Brother, let's retrieve father's body. Killer B said. A nodded and rushed towards the puppet, intending to sever the chakra strings. He knew puppeteers controlled their puppets with chakra strings, so severing them was the most effective counter. However, he found no strings. While he was momentarily stunned, the puppet punched him, sending him flying like a cannonball. Brother. Killer Bee immediately caught the fourth Raikage, but he was also smashed away by the fourth Raikage's body, acting as a meat shield. The fourth Raikage spat out a mouthful of blood, his chest caved in, and the imprint of a fist could be seen. Under my control, the third Raikage can unleash power far beyond his lifetime. Shin said to the fourth Raikage calmly. When a person is alive, because of the body's protective mechanism, they can't unleash their power by 100%. Because that would hurt themselves. But now, as a corpse, did it still need to be afraid of damage to itself? The puppet's punch could even send a tailed beast flying. If not for A's lightning-style chakra mode, he would have died now. That bastard. Killer Bee cursed. B, hurry up and take your brother away. You're no match for him. The Eight Tails' voice rang in Killer Bee's heart. The Eight Tails could observe the outside situation through Killer Bee's eyes. When he saw Shin, Eight Tails was almost scared to death. You're the Eight Tails. Why are you scared? Killer Bee couldn't understand the Eight Tails' fear. If you'd been beaten up by him, you'd be scared too. The Eight Tails felt its fear was justified. Shin could control it with a glance. What could it do? Boom. The third Raikage unleashed lightning-style chakra mode, and then rushed towards A and Killer Bee at high speed. Brother, are you okay? Killer Bee asked worriedly, seeing A spitting blood. You're not going to die, are you? Shut up. Get out of the way. A shoved B aside and dodged. Because of his quick reflexes, he avoided a direct hit, but the ground where the puppet's fist landed was pulverized, leaving a scorched crater. You two better get serious, or you'll die. Shin warned them through the puppet. Brother, let's attack Uzumaki Shin. Killer Bee yelled. He figured if they took out Shin, the puppet would be useless. A nodded. Ignoring the pain in his chest, he charged towards Shin, enveloped in lightning chakra mode, moving like a bolt of lightning. Fast as he was, the puppet was faster. It intercepted A, unleashing another devastating punch. The previous blow, without lightning-style chakra mode, had nearly killed A. This one, amplified by lightning chakra, could be fatal. Lightning-style, elbow, A yelled, bracing for impact, his elbow meeting the puppet's fist head-on. Crack. A's face contorted in pain as his elbow shattered. The puppet, unfazed, sent A flying. As a puppet, it felt no pain. A stumbled back to Killer Bee's side, cold sweat dripping from his brow. You can't even handle a puppet, and you think you can find me? Where do you get the nerve? Shin said, jumping down from the tree. B. Run. I knew they couldn't win, retrieving his father's body was impossible. What? Leave you behind? No way. B refused. Though often goofy, he was fiercely loyal. He wouldn't abandon his brother. Hakabi-sama, I need your help. Although Eight Tails was very afraid of Uzumaki Shin, at critical moments, he was still willing to lend Killer Bee power. The Eight Tails' chakra appeared on his body. His abilities in all aspects were greatly enhanced. Speed and strength were greatly enhanced. This was the increase brought by Eight Tails' chakra. Interesting. I'll use you two to test my puppet. Shin said, eager to see its capabilities in a real fight. As a puppet, the third Raikage could access Shin's Rinnegan, Tenseigan, and Sharingan abilities. But not his other KK Genkai, like Ice Style, Wood Style, or Magnet Style. Chapter 263, A Sneak Attack Unworthy of a Stage Boom. Killer Bee lay on the ground like a rag doll, and the fourth Raikage was also lying on the ground. Seriously injured, just like Killer Bee. It seems you guys are too weak. I can't even use you to test the puppet's strength. Shin couldn't help but shake his head in disappointment. He only used the third Raikage's standard ninjutsu and taijutsu, and he directly beat Killer Bee and the fourth Raikage to a pulp. Don't get cocky. I'm not done yet. Killer Bee's injuries rapidly healed, thanks to the Eight Tails' chakra. Hakabi-sama, I'm going full-tailed beast mode. Killer Bee called out mentally. Fine. I'll play along. Though honestly, I'd rather never see that man again. The Eight Tails sighed. It lent Killer Bee its full power. Killer Bee transformed into the Eight Tails. Long time no see, Eight Tails. I've missed you. Shin smiled at the massive beast, and the Eight Tails inwardly shuddered. Eight Tails was speechless. You miss me? I don't want you to miss me. The memory of being controlled by Shin's Sharingan filled it with dread. Perhaps with Killer Bee's interference, it could resist Shin's Ganjutsu this time. It felt a flicker of hope. Then, remembering Shin's overwhelming ocular power, its confidence crumbled. Hakabi-sama, don't lose your nerve. Charge! Killer Bee shouted with enthusiasm. Come on, third Raikage. Let's see if you can really brawl with a tailed beast. Shin controlled the puppet, charging forward recklessly. He didn't care if the puppet was damaged, it was expendable. The puppet, cloaked in lightning-style chakra mode, unleashed its strongest attack. The Hell Stab One-Finger Nukite. The Eight Tails didn't have time to form a tailed beast ball, the puppet was too fast. Besides, a tailed beast bomb wouldn't be effective unless it landed a direct hit. And unless Shin deliberately made the puppet a target, that wasn't happening. The puppet's one-finger strike sent the Eight Tails, despite its massive size, flying hundreds of meters, leaving a deep gouge in the earth. Impressive. The rumors were true. Shin couldn't help but applaud, genuinely impressed. Excluding Hashirama Senshu, the third Raikage was one of the strongest Kage in history. Shin Uzumaki, Die. Lightning Style, Lariat. A. Enveloped in lightning style chakra mode, charged towards Shin, aiming a powerful blow at his neck. This technique, when used in tandem with another shinobi, was called the lightning style double lariat. A Hidden Clouds Village secret technique where two users simultaneously attacked a single target from opposite sides, severing their head. It required perfect coordination. Only A and Killer Bee could perform it. Now, A was using it alone. A sneak attack on Shin. He deliberately hidden himself, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He could almost taste victory, picturing Shin's head being ripped from his body. Then, his attack passed harmlessly through Shin. A whipped around, staring at Shin in disbelief. Why? Why didn't it work? A sneak attack? Really? Did you think you could actually kill me with that? Shin looked at him as if he were an idiot. Even if A attacked him for eternity, he wouldn't be able to harm Shin. A, frustrated, attacked again, but his attacks continued to pass through Shin, unable to connect. Ganjutsu? Are you using an illusion on me? The fourth Raikage suspected he had been caught in a Ganjutsu, despite his precautions. Shin didn't bother explaining. Obito's Kamyu was quite effective. The fourth Raikage was already doubting his own sanity. Shin kicked the fourth Raikage in the face, sending him flying like a toy. Given the fourth Raikage's durability, he probably wouldn't die. The fourth Raikage's body skidded across the ground for hundreds of meters before crashing into a cliff face, the impact leaving him embedded in the rock and the surrounding stone riddled with cracks. That was a casual kick. If you died from that, you're just too weak to live. Shin said indifferently. That casual kick had the force of a speeding truck gun. Perhaps even greater. Shin sensed that he was still alive, though barely. Like a flickering candle flame about to be extinguished. Too weak. I need a real challenge. Shin looked up at the sky, longing for a worthy opponent. Fortunately, Shin's personality itself wasn't that of a battle maniac, otherwise he would probably be bored to death. He glanced at the Eight Tails, which was being pummeled by the third Raikage puppet. Under Shin's control, the puppet was far stronger than it had been in life. The original third Raikage could only fight the Eight Tails to a standstill, even if he could gain a slight advantage at times. What's going on? Is that thing on drugs? The Eight Tails wondered, struggling against the puppet's relentless assault. It knew that puppets, even those controlled by powerful shinobi, rarely surpassed the original's strength. However, the third Raikage puppet was different. It was like a Six Paths of Pain puppet. Nagato's Six Paths of Pain weren't inherently strong. Yahiko, the Deva Path, had only been an elite jonin in life, yet as a puppet, he could access power beyond even Kage level. Of course, that was mainly due to the Rinnegan. The third Raikage puppet was similar. Its chakra came from Shin. And because Shin's chakra was so potent, the puppet was far stronger than the original. Its lightning-style chakra mode, fueled by Shin's chakra, was far more powerful than the original's. Chapter 264, No Right to Choose. Shin watched as the third Raikage puppet pummeled the Eight Tails. The visual impact was impressive, but the Eight Tails wasn't truly injured. Sealing Jutsu, adamantine sealing chains. Countless chakra chains erupted from the puppet's back, binding the Eight Tails and wrapping it like a mummy. Sealing Jutsu is the best way to deal with tailed beasts. Shin said with a faint smile. Eight Tails had the ability to escape by cutting off its tail, but after being wrapped up like a mummy, Eight Tails had no way to use this ability. Raikage-sama, Killer Bee-sama, we're here to save you. Suddenly, a group of Hidden Clouds Village shinobi, led by Dodai, charged towards them. Dodai, a trusted advisor of the third Raikage, was a veteran of Hidden Clouds Village. More flies buzzing around. Shin turned his head and glanced at them. There were quite a few people who came. Where's the Raikage-sama? Dodai looked around and finally saw the fourth Raikage, and then immediately ran towards the fourth Raikage. Raikage-sama. Are you alright? O was unconscious and couldn't answer. Medics. Tend to the Raikage. Dodai yelled, relieved he'd brought medical shinobi. Though not a medic himself, he could see A was on the verge of death. Raikage-sama's injuries are very serious. He must be taken back to the village as soon as possible to save his life, a medic said grimly after examining A. The injuries were too serious. The medical equipment here was not enough, and they could only use medical ninjutsu to barely alleviate it. Take him back to Hidden Cloud's village. If anything happens to him, you'll pay with your lives. Dodai ordered without hesitation. Trying to save someone on my watch? Did you ask me? Shin's voice was calm, but his gaze made Dodai tremble. Originally, Dodai had a psychological shadow over Uzumaki Shin, but now that he met Shin's gaze, his heart suddenly skipped a beat, and then he immediately lowered his head. Dodai-sama, isn't that the third Raikage? One of the Hidden Clouds village shinobi suddenly exclaimed, pointing. It is. Dodai, familiar with the third Raikage, recognized him instantly. He heard rumors of the third Raikage's reappearance. It was precisely because of this news that Dodai chased after him out of worry after learning that the fourth Raikage had left Hidden Cloud's village. No. He's being controlled. Dodai said seriously, his angry gaze fixed on Uzumaki Shin. Not controlled. He's dead. I turned him into a puppet. Shin said to Dodai calmly. Shin's casual revelation enraged the Hidden Clouds village shinobi even further. Not only had he killed their Raikage, but he also desecrated his body. Soon you will all die too. Shin wasn't planning on letting them escape. They saved the fourth Raikage, but that was fine. Shin was too lazy to chase. But as a price, these guys would die in place of the fourth Raikage. Everyone, be careful. Dodai shouted loudly. Dodai knew Uzumaki Shin's strength, but even if he didn't want to be enemies at this time, he had no choice but to fight. They had to rescue Killer Bee, the Eight Tails was too important to Hidden Cloud's village. Fire style, majestic flame annihilation. A massive wall of flames, hundreds of meters wide, roared towards them, scorching the earth and igniting the surrounding trees. Shin's version of the jutsu was even stronger than Madara Uchiha's. Is that even ninjutsu? Dodai felt a wave of despair. This level of ninjutsu was really not something they could resist. The key was that they didn't have many people who knew water-style ninjutsu. Everyone, scatter. Dodai shouted loudly. As for whether they could dodge this attack, Dodai didn't know. It was up to fate. Minutes later, the flames subsided, leaving only a handful of Hidden Cloud's village shinobi alive, their bodies covered in burns. We're no match for him. Run. Dodai sighed. Rescuing Killer Bee was impossible now. Not that he didn't want to. He simply couldn't. Wood-style, deep forest emergence. Countless trees erupted from the earth, transforming the surrounding area into a dense forest within seconds. Even the scorched earth couldn't stop their growth. The remaining Hidden Clouds village shinobi, including Dodai, were entangled, crushed, and absorbed by the trees. Shin then turned his attention to the bound Eight Tails. It's your bad luck to provoke me. Chakra chains shot out from Shin's hand, forcibly extracting the Eight Tails from Killer Bee. Shin glanced at Killer Bee, who had collapsed unconscious. Normally, extracting a tailed beast meant death for the Jinchuriki. But as the Eight Tails was pulled free, it left a single tail connected to Killer Bee, keeping him barely alive. Eight Tails, you're quite attached to him, aren't you? Shin Uzumaki, please spare him. The Eight Tails pleaded. It knew it couldn't demand anything from Shin, only strength granted that right. If it was strong enough, it wouldn't be bound like this. Shin glanced at Killer Bee. Whether he lived or died was irrelevant to Shin. I don't mind sparing him. But I expect your cooperation from now on. Of course, you don't really have a choice. Shin looked at the Eight Tails, his Ritenseiyugun gleaming. Chapter 265, You still want to go out stealing hearts? Saying he would let Killer Bee go, Shin naturally wouldn't go back on his word. From then on, he didn't even glance at Killer Bee. This oversized raccoon isn't very useful. Shin considered what to do with the Eight Tails. Honestly, it wasn't of much use to him. The Nine Tails was far more interesting. Though only at its full power, not the split yin and yang halves. Even then, the Nine Tails would only be a pet. In a real fight, it wouldn't be of much help. After all, Shin's opponents were Six Paths level. What could the Nine Tails do against them? I'll just seal it away. Shin looked at the Eight Tails, then at the third Raikage puppet. He'd seal the Eight Tails within the puppet. He wasn't sure if a tailed beast could be sealed within a dead body, but he wanted to try. It would be an interesting experiment. He didn't care if the Eight Tails objected, its opinion was irrelevant. For simple sealing a tailed beast was child's play for Shin. A single 4-symbol seal was enough to contain the 8 tails within the third Raikage puppet. It actually worked. Shin observed the puppet. It seemed perfectly stable. Even as a corpse, the third Raikage's body, with its incredible durability, could handle the 8 tails' chakra. Shin controlled the puppet, sending it away before using Yamatsu Hirasaka to return to the land of whirlpools. Only Killer Bee remained. No longer a Jinchuriki, but a pseudo-Jinchuriki with a single tail remaining. If that tail's chakra was depleted, Killer Bee would likely die. You left suddenly. Was it something important? Mikoto asked when Shin returned. He vanished mid-conversation without a word. Not really. Shin replied with a shrug. He didn't consider the event in the land of rice paddies important. Of course, for the shinobi world, and especially for Hidden Cloud's village, it was a major event. They lost their tailed beast, their Raikage was severely injured and on the verge of death. Dodai, a quasi-Kage level shinobi, had been killed, along with numerous other Jonin and elite Jonin. The losses were devastating. Dodai's team had been elite, but Shin had wiped them out. Even if the fourth Raikage was healed, he would be devastated. In the future, when you have something to go out for, remember to tell us. Kushina said, slightly annoyed. Okay. It's not like I was going out to cheat on you guys. Shin muttered under his breath. Kushina overheard him and exploded. What? You're thinking of cheating? She slammed her fist on the table, glaring at him. No. When did I ever say that? Shin sighed. Women are really unreasonable sometimes, Kushina. You're insulting my character. This is an outrage. Shin's indignant outburst was met with silence, followed by stares of utter disbelief from Kushina, Mikoto, Tsunade, and Maître Mami. Only Conan refrained from judging him. Shin sighed. Only Conan was on his side. I'm going to train, he announced, grabbing his teacup and leaving. He couldn't stay, they were ganging up on him. Hey! That's my cup. Maître Mami yelled, but Shin was already gone. My, that's practically an indirect kiss. Tsunade teased. We're close enough. I wouldn't mind if it was with my... Mikoto said with a smile, looking at Maître Mami. Mikoto nay, I don't understand what you mean. Maître Mami said, looking down, her face slightly red. Yes, you do. Mikoto was perceptive. She had observed Maître Mami long enough to understand her feelings. Tsunade had noticed as well. Maître Mami chose not to respond, touching her cheeks, which felt warm. Meanwhile, Shin had teleported to a deserted island in the land of water. One of the many uninhabited islands surrounding the mainland. Shin was here to practice a new technique. Floating in the air, looking at the small island below, Shin's chakra surged wildly, and then he swung his fist towards the small island. 80 God's vacuum attack, a barrage of chakra-infused fists slammed into the island, pulverizing it into dust. The force of the attack continued downwards, striking the seabed and creating a massive tidal wave that shook the entire surrounding area. The island, chosen as Shin's testing ground, had met an unfortunate end. And not just the island. The shockwave reached the land of water's mainland, causing tremors and sending the tidal wave crashing towards the shore. As expected of the ultimate esoteric taijutsu. This attack is really exaggerated. Shin watched the approaching tsunami, then tossed a truth-seeking orb. The small black sphere expanded into a massive barrier, absorbing the wave and neutralizing it completely. He wouldn't allow his training to harm innocent people. If the tsunami reached the mainland, it could kill thousands. Chapter 266, The Kaguya Clan Rebels 80 God's Vacuum Attack. Is the ultimate esoteric taijutsu mastered by Kaguya Otsutsuki, which is somewhat similar to the Hyuga clan's 8 trigrams vacuum palm. 8 trigrams vacuum palm is one of the few long-range attack methods in Gentle Fist. It releases ultra-high-intensity chakra shockwaves in the form of a palm, which is the 8 trigrams vacuum palm. And 80 God's vacuum attack is also similar. Except that it throws out chakra fists condensed from high-intensity chakra. Although the two are similar, they cannot be mentioned in the same breath. 8 trigrams vacuum palm is completely incomparable to 80 God's vacuum attack. Officially, 80 God's vacuum attack is the fist that shakes the sky with senjutsu power, integrating offense and defense, and showing no mercy. Every punch is a sure kill blow, leaving no room for even a mouse to escape. The defense of a complete body Susanoo is as fragile as paper under the attack of 80 God's vacuum attack. When Shin used it just now, he directly wiped out an island, and even the seabed was revealed under the attack of this merciless fist. This taijutsu also belongs to the power of Kakemura. In the original work, only Kaguya Otsutsuki would use this move. Now Shin has finally researched it through his own research. As for whether it will be different from Kaguya Otsutsuki's 80 God's vacuum attack, Shin is not sure about this. After all, Shin has never seen Kaguya Otsutsuki use it in person. Even if there is a difference, Shin doesn't think that the 80 Gods vacuum attack he researched will be worse than Kaguya's. Perhaps his is even stronger. This power is very strong, but the chakra consumption is not small either. Shin noted, sensing his depleted reserves. He could handle the cost, but if Kushina and the others were to use it, it is estimated that they would consume almost all of their chakra with one use. His purpose here was to test the 80 Gods vacuum attack, and the results were satisfying. It was now one of his strongest techniques. Since I'm in the land of water, might as well take a look around. Shin looked towards the main island, which was visible from his current location. Though he was still technically within the land of water's territory, only the main island was populated. The surrounding islands were mostly deserted. He arrived on the main island, finding the people in a state of panic, terrified by the tremors and tsunami he inadvertently caused. Though he only destroyed a small, uninhabited island, the shockwave had reached the mainland. My bad. Shin said, though he wasn't truly apologetic. If anyone had died, he wouldn't lose any sleep over it. He didn't sympathize with the weak, but he wouldn't actively bully them either. I wonder what's happening in Hidden Mist Village. Shin turned towards Hidden Mist Village. If the timeline was correct, the Bloody Mist era should be in full swing. The Land of Water was the smallest of the 5 great nations, but Hidden Mist Village had produced many powerful shinobi. There were numerous clans with KK Genkai, like the Kaguya and Hazuki clans. And there was the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, though their weapons were unorthodox. Their strength was undeniable, and their swords held unique properties. However, thanks to Obito's manipulations, Hidden Mist Village was on the decline. And now, with Maitru Mama gone, Shin wondered if Hidden Mist Village could maintain its status as a major village. Shin soon arrived in Hidden Mist Village. His expression turning grim. Though he knew the village was in chaos, it was worse than he imagined. The stench of blood hung heavy in the air. Hidden Mist Village truly is unfortunate. Among the 5 great villages, Hidden Mist Village was arguably the most miserable one. Controlled by Madara, then targeted by Obito's vengeance for Nohara Rin's death, its strength had been decimated. During the Third Shinobi World War, Nohara Rin was captured by Hidden Mist Village Anbu, and then the 3 tails was implanted in Nohara Rin's body to destroy Hidden Lee Village. In order not to harm her companions, Nohara Rin voluntarily died under Kakashi's Chidori. But all of this was planned by Madara Uchiha, and Hidden Mist Village was just Madara Uchiha's chess piece. That explains the blood. Shin knew the reason. The Kaguya clan launched a rebellion and then started a war with Hidden Mist Village. The group of lunatics from the Kaguya clan killed anyone they saw, whether they were shinobi or villagers from Hidden Mist Village, it didn't matter. Kill. A member of the Kaguya clan, wielding a bone club, charged towards Shin. Looking at the guy with red eyes, as if he had lost his mind, Shin casually pinched this guy to death. Shin has already labeled the Kaguya clan as mindless brutes. They were actually fighting Hidden Mist Village? Though weakened by Obito, Hidden Mist Village was still a major village. Chapter 267, Obito's frustration. The Kaguya clan's rebellion lasted only a day before being crushed. A clan couldn't stand against a village. Only one Kaguya remained. Not Kimimaro, who had likely left Hidden Mist Village with Orochimaru. Kimimaro, having been treated as a tool by his clan, probably didn't even consider himself a Kaguya. The survivor was Kaguya Sora, the clan head, currently battling the 5th Mizukage, Yagura. Shin watched their fight with interest. Yagura wasn't weak. Like Killer Bee, he could fully control his tailed beast's power. Shin didn't know how old Yagura was, but he was short, about the same height as Anoki, the 3rd Tsuchikage. He wielded a club adorned with green flowers, battling fiercely against Sora. Dance of the Willow. Sora attacked Yagura with his clan's signature technique. Is that Shikatsumayaku? Shin was surprised. He thought Kimimaro was the only one with Shikatsumayaku in this era. That was why Kimimaro had been imprisoned and treated as a tool. Did my actions really change the world this much? Shin couldn't help but mutter to himself. Perhaps. This Naruto world was already different from the original. Obito Uchiha's here, too. Shin noticed Obito hiding in the shadows. Though Obito's concealment was good, it couldn't escape Shin's eyes. It wasn't surprising Obito was here, he might have been staying in Hidden Mist Village all along. And he had to be here now. If he wasn't, Yagura might break free from his control during the battle. I wonder if Obito will lose it if I free Yagura from his control. Shin chuckled. Shin was quite willful, doing whatever he thought of. His eyes instantly turned into 3 Tomoe Sharingan, and then the 3 Tomoe slowly rotated once. Yagura, who was fighting Kaguya Sora, trembled, and his eyes showed confusion. Now's my chance. Die. Sora grinned and stabbed at Yagura's heart with a bone blade. Bam. Though Sora had seized the opportunity, his attack was blocked by the Three Tails chakra cloak. The Three Tails was protecting Yagura. If Yagura died, it would die too. Damn Three Tails. Sora was furious. He almost killed Yagura. The Three Tails chakra cloak was incredibly strong. The defense of the Three Tails should be the strongest among the tailed beasts. What's happening? Why did Yagura break free from my control? Obito, who was observing in the dark, was shocked. After Yagura was controlled, his actions were basically controlled by Obito. Now that he lost control, Obito naturally noticed it immediately. He tried to regain control, but he failed. It wasn't because of Shin. Yagura and the Three Tails were already on guard. Once a Jinchuriki and their tailed beast were aware of the Sharingan's control, it was difficult to control them again. Their connection interfered with the Ganjutsu. Madara Uchiha. Yagura roared, his voice filled with rage. He pushed down his anger and focused on Sora. Kaguya Sora, as long as you surrender, I can let bygones be bygones. Yagura said to Kaguya Sora. Yagura knew the state Hidden Mist Village was in. Sora was a Kage-level shinobi. Yagura didn't want any more losses. But his words only enraged Sora. His entire clan was dead, how could he surrender? Die, Yagura. Sora unleashed his strongest attack, the dance of the seedling fern. Countless bone spikes erupted from the ground, impaling the surrounding Hidden Mist Village shinobi. Yagura's expression sank. There was no room for negotiation. He attacked Sora with his full strength, his three-tailed chakra cloak swirling around him. Free from Obito's control, his power was even greater. He overwhelmed Sora, whose attacks couldn't penetrate the chakra cloak. Yagura isn't weak. Shin observed Yagura's strength. He wasn't the weakest of the Kage. If Shin had to choose the weakest, it would be Raza, the fourth Kaze Kage. The first and second Kaze Kage aside, the others all had embarrassing moments. The third Kaze Kage had been killed and turned into a puppet by Sasori. Raza had been assassinated by Orochimaru. And Gaara, the future fifth Kaze Kage, had almost been killed by Kimimaro before being captured by Sasori and Deidara, who extracted Shukaku. If Chio hadn't sacrificed herself to revive him, he'd be dead. The battle between Yagura and Sora lasted an entire day, ending with Sora's defeat and escape. Yagura didn't pursue him. Even a brute knows when to run. Shin glanced at Yagura, then at Obito, who was hiding in the shadows, and silently followed Sora. He wasn't after Shikatsu Yaku. He wanted the all-killing ash bones, a far more powerful ability. According to speculation, Shikatsu Yaku should be a degradation of all-killing ash bones, similar to the relationship between Sharingan and Rinnegan, but Shin wasn't confident that he could upgrade Shikatsu Yaku to the level of all-killing ash bones. He followed Kaguya Sora, wanting to capture him and study him. Maybe he could research all-killing ash bones based on Shikatsu Yaku. He could try, and it wouldn't matter if he failed. Chapter 268, Asking Orochimaru for help. Who are you? Kaguya Sora held a bone blade in his hand, and his eyes released fierce killing intent. You don't even recognize me? I guess I'm not as famous as I thought. Shin shook his head with disappointment. As expected, he hadn't reached the point where the entire shinobi world recognized him. It was similar to Madara Uchiha. Though his name was legendary, few would recognize him in person. Die. Kaguya Sora obviously didn't want to talk nonsense with Shin. Holding the bone blade, he slashed towards Shin. Assuming he was a Hidden Mist Village shinobi sent to kill him. I like your decisiveness. Shin didn't want to talk nonsense either. He wanted to achieve his objective and return to the land of whirlpools. It was getting late. He didn't want Kushina and the others getting angry. He drew his Kusanagi blade, blocking Sora's bone blade. The impact left a small chip in Sora's weapon, and Shin's eyes widened slightly in surprise. It was surprisingly durable. Impressive. That bone's tougher than I thought. Shin said with a light laugh. Kaguya Sora didn't pay any attention to what Shin said. The Kaguya clan members became very bloodthirsty and crazy after entering a battle state. Kaguya Sora was in that state now, focused solely on killing Shin. Bone spikes erupted from his body, shooting towards Shin. In close combat, few clans could match the Kaguya clan. Too slow. Shin's Kusanagi blade flashed, and then Kaguya Sora froze, a line of blood appearing on his neck. Before Sora even realized what had happened, his throat had been severed. He collapsed. Dead. Shin sheathed his sword, storing both the blade and Sora's corpse in the Kamyu dimension. Kamyu was convenient for storage. This was equivalent to carrying a portable inventory. Time to leave. He used Yamatsu Hirasaka to return to the land of whirlpools, arriving just as Mikoto finished preparing dinner. After dinner, Shin retrieved Kaguya Sora's body from Kamui. His purpose was to study Shikatsu Yaku. As for why he killed Kaguya Sora instead of keeping him alive for research, Shin wasn't a pervert like Orochimaru. He wanted the all-killing ash bones, Kaguya Otsutsuki's signature technique. A Kakemora ability where sharp bone projectiles erupted from the user's hand, causing anything they touched to disintegrate at a molecular level. It was a powerful technique. Even Six Paths Obito had been disintegrated by it. A one-hit kill jutsu, arguably even more potent than truth-seeking orbs. If it had perfect accuracy, it would be unstoppable. Second only to Shin's, Tenmomai, and Takamagahara. Shin definitely wanted that ability, but he suspected he'd have to wait until Kaguya was revived and copy it from her. Shin, whose body is that? Kushina asked Shin. Because Shin threw Kaguya Sora's corpse out in the yard, Kushina and the others naturally saw it. If I had to guess, I'd say it's a Kaguya. Tsunade looked at Kaguya Sora and said. The Kaguya clan's characteristics were too obvious. The two red dots on the brow, and that hairstyle, were particularly easy to identify. That's right. It's Kaguya Sora. The Kaguya clan head. Maitru Mummy stared at Shin. So during his absence, Shin ran to Hidden Mist Village and killed the Kaguya clan head? You know him? Shin looked at Maitru Mummy with some surprise. Of course. He's the Kaguya clan head. I'm just surprised you killed him. Maitru Mummy knew the Kaguya clan head was very strong. It was precisely because of this powerful clan head that the Kaguya clan was relatively arrogant in Hidden Mist Village. However, the Kaguya clan wasn't well liked. Their arrogance and bloodlust made them unpopular. The Kaguya clan's been wiped out. Shin said. Did you do it? Kushina blinked at Shin. No. They weren't my enemies. Why would I bother? They rebelled against Hidden Mist Village and got themselves killed. In fact, even if the Kaguya clan didn't rebel, they were destined for destruction. Or rather, their Kaguya clan was actually forced to rebel by Hidden Mist Village. So you killed Sora because he offended you? Mikoto couldn't help but ask. No. I wanted to research his Shikatsu Yaku. Shin shrugged and said, and then Shin began to do research. Shin, what's wrong? Konan asked, seeing him frown. She wanted to help. It's a bit complicated. I'm not good at this kind of research. Shin didn't even know where to start. Then Shin looked at Tsunade. As the strongest medical shinobi, he wondered if Tsunade could help. Want my help? Tsunade asked, correctly interpreting his look. However, Tsunade shook her head at Shin. She couldn't help with researching Shikatsu Yaku either. I can't help with that. I'm a medic, not a geneticist. But I can recommend someone. Who? Shin asked. Orochimaru. Shin smacked his forehead. Of course. Orochimaru, the greatest scientist in the shinobi world, was the perfect person for this. He'd be thrilled to study Shikatsu Yaku. Chapter 269, The Akatsuki's Mission. Shin stored Kaguya Sora's body back in the Kamyu dimension. Since he couldn't research it himself, he could only wait until tomorrow to find Orochimaru. It was already evening, and Shin wasn't that proactive. Mainly, Shin felt that even if he did research and got results, there might not be any gains. Shin's attitude was that it would be best if he could successfully research all killing ash bones, but it wouldn't matter if he couldn't. Shin could always use a replication card to copy it from Kaguya Otsutsuki. He'd probably need a divine replication card for that. Moreover, a single divine replication card might be enough to copy all of Kaguya's abilities. Shin also wanted to obtain her, a Monomonica. The ultimate space-time ninjutsu. As the progenitor of Chakra, Kaguya's power was incredibly tempting. The next morning, Shin headed for the Akatsuki's base. Since Orochimaru had joined Akatsuki, it was much easier to find him. He went straight to Orochimaru's lab. Orochimaru was living quite comfortably in Akatsuki. First of all, he didn't have to worry about Hidden Leaf Village assassins. Not that he feared them, but it was a hassle. Here, he could focus on his research, acquiring test subjects from the Land of Rain whenever he needed them. Although Pain disapproved of his methods, he didn't interfere. Nagato was no longer the Nagato he used to be, human lives were no longer a concern. Shin, you came here specifically to see me? Orochimaru asked, momentarily surprised. Indeed. I need a favor. Shin didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point, throwing Kaguya Sora's body out of the Kamyu space. A Kaguya. Orochimaru recognized the corpse instantly. He had recently been to Hidden Mist Village and recruited Kimimaro, so he was familiar with the Kaguya clan's distinctive features. He hadn't brought Kimimaro to the Akatsuki base. Instead keeping him at a separate location. Orochimaru's motives were his own. That's Kaguya Sora, the Kaguya clan head. Like your new recruit, Kimimaro, he possesses Shikatsu Yaku. I thought you might be interested. Orochimaru's expression hardened slightly. How did Shin know about Kimimaro? What kind of favor do you need? Orochimaru asked, his curiosity piqued. What could Shin possibly need help with? You're the expert in this area. I'd like you to research Shikatsu Yaku. Just share the data with me. Shin knew this would be tempting to Orochimaru, who was fascinated by Kekkei Genkai. He wouldn't experiment on Kimimaro directly. Kimimaro was his chosen vessel. Very well. Orochimaru agreed without hesitation. This was a win-win situation. I can't guarantee any results, though. That's fine. Just don't half-ass it. Tread. Heavy footsteps approached, followed by a knock on the door. Orochimaru, Pain wants to see you. Something important. Sasori's voice echoed from outside. Although Sasori and Orochimaru were teammates, their relationship was not harmonious. Sasori couldn't stand Orochimaru. Similarly, Orochimaru also wanted to dissect Sasori for research. Pain. I wonder if Shin is interested? Orochimaru's gaze turned to Shin. Sure. Why not? Shin was curious. Shin and Orochimaru arrived at the chamber where the demonic statue of the outer path was housed. Also the Akatsuki's meeting room. Uzumaki Shin? Pain's eyes obviously fluctuated when he saw Shin, and he began to guess why Shin Uzumaki appeared here. Shin glanced around. Sasori and Kakazu were present, though Kakazu was only a chakra projection. The magic lantern body technique was a forbidden technique used by the Akatsuki for communication. Pain, am I not welcome? Shin asked with a faint smile. Pain didn't speak. It didn't matter if Shin Uzumaki came. Perhaps they could ask Shin Uzumaki for help. Leader, get on with it. I have money to make. Kakazu couldn't help but be impatient when he saw Pain remain silent for a long time. This was disturbing his money-making. Indeed. I have a mission for you. What kind of mission? If it's too easy, I'm not interested. Sasori said. He'd rather continue his puppet research. Yagura, the fifth Mizukage, has learned a crucial secret about the Akatsuki. Your mission is to eliminate him. Shin's eyes narrowed. This mission was related to him. Obito had likely ordered Pain to eliminate Yagura, who'd broken free of Obito's control. Thanks to Shin. While under Obito's control, Yagura had learned things he shouldn't have. Though not much, it was enough to jeopardize Obito's plans. Eliminating Yagura was the safest course of action. Obito hadn't done it himself because he didn't want to be exposed, and killing Yagura in Hidden Mist Village wouldn't be easy. Yagura was on guard now, and Obito's Sharingan wouldn't be as effective. And if a fight broke out, Obito couldn't defeat Yagura quickly. Facing the entire village, he would be forced to flee. So Obito gave this task to Nagato. Chapter 270, Kakazu's Trauma Leader. That's no easy mission. Sasori said after a moment of silence. Assassinating a Kage in their own village was a dangerous undertaking. Although arrogant and confident, Sasori wasn't foolish enough to think he could take on an entire hidden village. This time, the entire Akatsuki will participate. The fifth Mizukage Yagura must die. Pain said in an unquestionable tone. The masked man, Madara Uchiha, had stressed Yagura's threat. If Yagura lived, it could jeopardize his plan for world peace. Yahiko's dream had to be realized. Go prepare. Pain dismissed them. Kakazu's projection vanished, abandoning his money-making endeavors to prepare for the mission. Everyone left, and only Shin and Pain were left here. Oh, along with a hidden observer. Come out. There's no point hiding. Shin said, standing atop the demonic statue. Not far from Shin, space warped, and Obito Uchiha emerged. Pain remained impassive, though he was wary of the masked man's space-time ninjutsu, regardless of whether he was truly Madara Uchiha. Uzumaki Shin, what are you doing here? Obito asked, his tone unfriendly. He couldn't see Obito's expression through the mask, but his tone was hostile. Are you questioning me? Shin turned his head and glanced at Obito. Obito Uchiha had become bolder. Had he forgotten the previous lesson? Obito's face sank. How should he respond? He couldn't lose face. Even though Obito felt that his strength had improved a lot now, he still had no confidence. He didn't know the extent of Uzumaki Shin's power. Zetsu had warned him that even Madara Uchiha was wary of Uzumaki Shin, so Obito chose to remain silent. Nagato, observing through the Deva path, found this interesting. It seemed Shin and the masked man weren't allies after all. The masked man was clearly wary of Shin, even afraid. Nagato's suspicion about the masked man's true identity grew. He wasn't Madara Uchiha. Since meeting the masked man, Nagato had been investigating Madara. The masked man's behavior didn't match the intel he'd gathered. Regardless, Nagato didn't care. As long as he could fulfill Yahiko's dream and achieve world peace, it didn't matter if the masked man was Madara or not. Madara, Are you joining us in Hidden Mist Village to eliminate Yagura? Pain asked Obito. My identity must remain hidden. That's why I'm having you do this. Do you think a mere Mizukage is a threat to me? Obito glanced at Pain indifferently, saying it quite arrogantly. PFFT. Shin's derisive snort made Obito's facade crumble. Obito wasn't sure he could handle Yagura. If he attacked directly, unless he could kill Yagura instantly, he'd be facing the entire village. He could escape, but he wouldn't be able to kill Yagura. Obito only had one Sharingan. If he had both Mangekyo Sharingan, his power would be far greater. Speaking of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Shin still had Ryota's Mangekyo Sharingan stored away. It had been too long, and Shin had forgotten about it. Obito was annoyed by Shin's mocking laughter, but he held his tongue, fuming inwardly. I have other matters to attend to. He used that as an excuse and vanished with Kamui. If he continued to stay, he was afraid he would lose all face. Orochimaru and Sasori quickly prepared for the mission. Soon the Akatsuki members set off for the Land of Water. Orochimaru had just returned from the Land of Water and was now going back. This time, Pain was joining them, which meant Nagato was coming too. The 6 paths of Pain couldn't operate too far from Nagato. Shin also tagged along to join in the fun. There was no need for Shin to take action. Nagato, as the leader of the Akatsuki, could handle it. At this time, Nagato's strength was likely at the low end of Super Kage level, far exceeding a typical Kage. He was stronger than Obito, but Obito's Kamui was tricky. If they fought, Nagato wouldn't be able to defeat Obito. And Nagato's frail body made him vulnerable. If Obito found an opening, he could kill Nagato. They soon arrived in the Land of Water. Kakazu also joined them. And Kakazu, upon seeing Uzumaki Shin, immediately backed away. He still had nightmares about Shin casually destroying 4 of his hearts. He was terrified. Looking at Kakazu, who looked like he had seen a ferocious beast, Shin couldn't help but want to complain. Was he that scary? Leader, how do you plan to infiltrate Hidden Mist Village? Orochimaru looked at Pain. Looking at the purple Rinnegan. Orochimaru's eyes were full of endless greed, and he didn't hide it at all. Humphrey. Pain snorted coldly. His icy Rinnegan glared at Orochimaru. He knew Orochimaru was after the Rinnegan, but he wasn't concerned. He was confident Orochimaru couldn't take them. Orochimaru looked away, a predatory glint in his snake-like eyes. All along, he hadn't given up on obtaining the Rinnegan. He just needed the right opportunity. Chapter 271, The Akatsuki vs. Hidden Mist Village. Pain stood before Hidden Mist Village, contemplating his strategy. He would prefer to keep the Akatsuki's existence under wraps for now. A powerful organization, if it drew too much attention, could become a target for the other hidden villages. Although the villages weren't exactly allies, they would unite against a common threat. Just like in the original story, where they joined forces against Obito and the White Zetsu army during the Fourth Shinobi World War. However, after some thought, Pain realized the Akatsuki couldn't stay hidden any longer. Assassinating a Kage was a high-profile act, there was no way to keep it quiet. We attack directly, Pain said. Subtlety was out the window. Pain summoned the other 5 paths, the 6 paths of Pain were assembled. Orochimaru's eyes widened. 6 Rinnegan? Had he seen correctly? Was the Rinnegan he craved so desperately suddenly commonplace? Since Orochimaru joined Akatsuki, he had only seen Deva Path. So he was so shocked when he saw the other 5 pairs of Rinnegan now. Shin? Orochimaru turned to Shin, hoping for an explanation. Although younger, Shin seemed to possess a wealth of knowledge. Orochimaru didn't believe the Rinnegan was suddenly common, there had to be a reason for this. Ask Pain. Though I doubt he'll tell you, Shin glanced at Orochimaru and said. Not getting an answer from Shin, Orochimaru wisely decided against questioning Pain. The animal path infiltrated Hidden Mist Village first, and then used the summoning technique to summon all the other Pains inside. The leaders inside. Let's go. Orochimaru, show me what you're capable of. Sasori said coldly. You'll see. Orochimaru gave a chilling smile. They despised each other. Orochimaru would love to turn Sasori into a research subject. Kakazu, without a word, entered Hidden Mist Village. He wasn't afraid of a major village, he was someone who had fought against the first Hokage. After all, Kakazu wasn't easily intimidated. If things got dangerous, he could always escape. I'll be waiting inside. Don't disappoint me. Shin waved at Orochimaru and Sasori with a smile, and then disappeared instantly. At this time, Shin had already entered Hidden Mist Village. Time to try Hidden Mist Village's famous seafood ramen. He appeared in front of the ramen shop. Maitre Mami had raved about it, he wanted to try it. He wasn't in a hurry to watch the Akatsuki's attack, A bowl of ramen wouldn't take long. A bowl of seafood ramen. And make it quick. Shin told the owner. He wanted his ramen before Pain and the others caused too much chaos. The owner quickly prepared a steaming bowl of seafood ramen. Just the aroma made Shin's mouth water. After a single bite, he understood Matru Mummy's enthusiasm. It was delicious. Boom. Shin had only taken 2 bites when an explosion rocked the village. Pain and the others had begun their assault. The sound seemed to be coming from the Mizukage Tower. Shin, grabbing his bowl of ramen, vanished. In his haste, he forgot to pay. Shin arrived at the Mizukage Tower. Or rather, where the Mizukage Tower used to be. It was now a pile of rubble, thanks to the Deva Path's almighty push. The animal path's summons were rampaging through the village. The entire Hidden Mist village was in chaos. Yagura, wielding his strange hooked staff, confronted the 6 paths of pain. Who are you? Yagura looked at the 6 strangely shaped pains in front of him with shock and anger, and questioned them angrily. We are your death. The Deva Path lunged, thrusting a black receiver rod at Yagura. Yagura dodged, instinctively sensing the danger, then swung his staff. Almighty push, the repulsive force sent Yagura flying. Bam! He crashed to the ground, rolling before coming to a stop. He wiped the blood from his mouth, staring at the Deva Path warily. If not for the 3 tails chakra cloak, he would have been severely injured. His battle instincts were sharp. What was that? Some sort of KK Genkai? Yagura didn't recognize the Rinnegan. Few in the world knew what it looked like. The last person to wield the Rinnegan was the Sage of 6 Paths, and who in this era had seen him. Only those who had studied ancient texts would recognize the Dujutsu. Yagura wasn't one of them. Orochimaru, Sasori, and Kakazo arrived. Orochimaru, seeing the Deva Path easily suppressing Yagura, felt a flicker of greed, then quickly suppressed it. Hold back the other Hidden Mist village ninja. Pain ordered. He could level the entire village with a super almighty push, but that would consume Nagato's life force. Besides, annihilating Hidden Mist village wasn't his objective. He just needed to kill Yagura. Sasori released his puppets. This kind of large-scale battle suited him perfectly. Orochimaru summoned a swarm of snakes, even more numerous than Sasori's puppets. Kakazu wasn't idle either, he unleashed his Earth Grudge Fear. Chapter 272, Yagura's Demise. Shin watched the battle unfold while enjoying his ramen. The Akatsuki, though not yet at its full strength, was already a formidable force. Orochimaru, Sasori, and Kakazu were all Kage-level powerhouses. 3 Kage-level powerhouses were enough to cause a big disturbance in Hidden Mist Village and retreat unscathed. Hidden Mist Village is really weak. Shin observed the battle. Yagura seemed to be the only Kage-level shinobi left in the village. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were only elite Jonin level. Although they did have some strength, they couldn't threaten Orochimaru, Sasori, or Kakazu. And Yagura was being overwhelmed by pain. If not for the 3 tails chakra, he'd already be dead. 3 tails, I need your strength. Yagura roared, transforming into the 3 tails. Few Jinchuriki could achieve full-tailed beast mode. In this state, Yagura's power far surpassed that of the 3 tails alone. Yagura retained his consciousness. Controlling the 3 tails' power was far more effective than letting the beast control itself. A Jinchuriki in perfect sync with their tailed beast was far stronger than the tailed beast alone. Your strength is commendable, but facing a god is foolish. Pain said, looking at the transformed Yagura. I am the Mizukage. Protecting this village is my duty. Yagura's voice echoed from within the 3 tails, which then opened its maw and began charging a tailed beast bomb. Every tailed beast, even the one tail with its limited chakra, could use the tailed beast bomb. The Deva Path didn't flinch as the tailed beast bomb hurtled towards him. The Preta Path stepped forward. Blocking technique absorption seal, the tailed beast bomb was absorbed, and Shin raised an eyebrow, impressed. Nagato's 6 paths of pain were quite capable, absorbing even a tailed beast bomb. Of course, Shin wasn't very impressed. It was decent. But nothing special. However, Yagura was very shocked. He was running out of options. Almighty push, the Deva Path unleashed a powerful repulsive force, far stronger than before, sending the 3 tails crashing into the earth. The Preta Path rushed forward, using its chakra absorption ability to drain the 3 tails' energy. Even a tailed beast's vast chakra couldn't withstand the Preta Path's relentless absorption. The 3 tails quickly retreated into Yagura's body. Pain looked at the weakened Yagura, ready to deliver the final blow, then hesitated. He had heard that if a Jinchuriki was killed, the tailed beast would also die with them. If he killed Yagura, would the 3 tails also die with him? The plan required the tailed beasts, and the 3 tails must not die. It doesn't matter if Yagura dies. The tailed beast can be revived, though it takes time. Shin appeared in front of Pain and said calmly. A tailed beast was essentially a mass of chakra. As long as its chakra wasn't completely annihilated, it would eventually reform. Whether it retained its memories was another matter. Hearing Shin's words, Pain still didn't make a move, because Pain didn't trust Shin. What if Shin was lying? Their plan to collect the tailed beasts and revive the 10 tails couldn't be jeopardized. Pain decided to extract the 3 tails from Yagura, which would also kill him. Extracting a tailed beast was a death sentence for the Jinchuriki. The Devapath personally took action and extracted the 3 tails from Yagura's body. The 3 tails, weakened by the Pretapath's chakra absorption, was severely diminished in size. The 3 tails fled in a hurry. Pain didn't pursue it. Though the Akatsuki's goal was to gather the tailed beasts, it wasn't time yet. He didn't want to openly antagonize the 5 great villages. The Akatsuki wasn't ready for that kind of conflict. Looking at Yagura's lifeless body, Pain, to be safe, thrust a black receiver rod into his heart. Not even letting the corpse rest in peace, huh? Shin commented, then realized he was in no position to judge. Just like Kaguya Sora, who was killed before, not only was he killed, but his body was also taken back by Shin for research. The mission's complete. Let's go. Pain looked at the increasingly large number of Hidden Mist Village shinobi gathering in the distance, and obviously didn't plan to continue to entangle with them. They hadn't come to annihilate Hidden Mist Village. Killing the Mizukage was one thing, destroying the entire village was another matter. Pain, with the other paths, quickly left. Seeing Pain withdraw, Orochimaru, Sasori, and Kakazu naturally wouldn't be like fools and continue to engage with Hidden Mist Village's shinobi here. Soon, all the Akatsuki members withdrew, including Shin. Yagura's death didn't cause much grief in Hidden Mist Village. He hadn't been a popular leader. His brutality, which had turned Hidden Mist Village into the Bloody Mist Village, had made him many enemies. The Yagura's actions had been a result of Obito's control, no one knew that. Yagura had taken the blame, and now, dead, he couldn't even defend himself. Shin returned to the land of whirlpools, and the death of this Mizukage didn't cause a sensation in the shinobi world. The land of water was an overseas island country, so it was relatively closed off. It was also difficult for news to spread. Besides, Hidden Mist Village didn't want this news to spread either. After all, a Kage assassinated in their own village was a humiliating disgrace. Chapter 273, Let's see who punishes the other. I'm back. Where is everyone? Shin returned home to find the house empty. Kushina, Tsunade, Mikoto, Konan, and Maitru Mami were nowhere to be found. Did they go drain? Have they all become so diligent? That's actually good news. Shin stepped out of the house and headed towards their usual training spot. Sure enough, they were all there. Konan and Maitru Mami were training diligently, while Kushina, Mikoto, and Tsunade watched from the sidelines. It wasn't that Kushina, Mikoto, and Tsunade weren't working hard, they simply felt they had hit a ceiling in their strength and couldn't improve much further. They had reached the peak of Super Kage level. The next step was 6 Paths level, but achieving that was incredibly difficult. Looking back at the Naruto world, how many actually reached 6 Paths level through their own power? Almost everyone relied on some external boost or cheat. Kaguya Otsutsuki had the God Tree fruit. Shin didn't know the full details about the Sage of 6 Paths and his brother, but their lineage already placed them far above others. Then there was 6 Paths Madara, 6 Paths Obito, Naruto, and Sasuke. All relied on external power. Madara and Obito became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto and Sasuke received power directly from Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Even Shin himself had reached 6 Paths level with the help of his system. Without it, Kage level would likely have been his limit, maybe not even Super Kage. So, Shin was also a cheater. This world ran on cheats. Want to get stronger without one? Keep dreaming. In the later stages of Naruto, characters without cheats became practically irrelevant. Seems I got a bit sidetracked. You're back? Kushina turned her head, looking at Shin who stood behind them. You sensed me? You're improving. Shin said, ruffling Kushina's vibrant red hair. Stop it. You're messing up my hair. Kushina glared at Shin, slightly annoyed. You 3 are just watching Konan and my train? Not working hard yourselves? Shin sat down between Kushina and Mikoto, casually putting an arm around each of them. It's not that we don't want to. It feels like we can't get any stronger. Mikoto said, shaking her head. We've maxed out our ninjutsu and Sharingan abilities. Our chakra feels like it's hit its limit. There's not much else we can do to improve. You could train your taijutsu. Shin suggested, looking at Mikoto. No way. I don't want to become a muscle-bound behemoth. Would you still like me then? Mikoto shuddered slightly at the mental image. Shin looked at Mikoto, speechless. Did training taijutsu automatically mean bulging muscles? He hadn't exactly turned into a hulking brute himself. My monstrous strength is good enough. Tsunade chimed in at that moment. Indeed, being able to shatter a building with one punch was sufficient. Besides, their strengths didn't lie solely in taijutsu. While Tsunade in the original story relied heavily on medical ninjutsu and her monstrous strength, her most powerful technique now was wood style. Shin looked at Kushina, Mikoto, and Tsunade. He could help them reach Six Paths level, just as Hagoromo had granted power to Naruto and Sasuke. But he was reluctant. Forcing their power like that might limit their future potential, making it harder for them to grow stronger on their own. That's why Shin hadn't granted them Six Paths power directly. He believed that with their potential and his guidance, they might reach Six Paths level eventually. If they truly couldn't, then he'd reconsider directly gifting them the power. What are you spacing out about? Kushina noticed Shin lost in thought and playfully poked his cheek. After poking him twice, she found the sensation quite pleasant and couldn't resist pinching it. What are you doing? Shin asked, exasperated, grabbing both of Kushina's cheeks. MMPHH, let go. Kushina mumbled incoherently, struggling and even trying to bite him, though his grip made it impossible. Don't you get tired of this? Shin asked, looking at the flailing Kushina. You're always bullying me. Mikoto, help me. Shin's getting too cocky, let's punish him. Kushina yelled towards Mikoto. Don't drag me into this. I'm not as bold as you, Kushina. Good luck. Mikoto watched with amusement. This was Kushina's own doing, Mikoto wasn't getting involved. Getting involved meant getting bullied by Shin too. Even together, she and Kushina couldn't beat him. Mikoto knew her limits and stayed out of it. Punish me? Let's see who punishes the other. Shin picked Kushina up, and his figure vanished instantly, leaving Mikoto and Tsunade sitting there. What do you think will happen to Kushina? Tsunade asked Mikoto. Nothing too serious, I imagine. She'll probably just be too weak to move for a few days. Mikoto replied with a smile. Tsunade looked at Mikoto, speechless. That wasn't serious. Although, with Kushina's constitution, it wouldn't take her days to recover, but she wouldn't bounce back instantly either. The memory of that particular weakness made Tsunade's own face flush slightly. Tsunade, you're blushing. Feeling like joining them. If you go now, Kushina might even be grateful. Mikoto teased. Mikoto, you've gotten awfully bold, teasing me like that. Tsunade glared playfully at Mikoto, moving to grab her, but Mikoto, anticipating the move, used the teleportation jutsu to quickly put distance between them. Just then, Konan and Maitru Mummy finished their training and walked over. Where are Shin and Kushina Nichan? I saw Shin come back earlier. Konan asked curiously. She'd noticed Shin's arrival despite being focused on her training. They went off to do good deeds. Maybe you should go check on them, Konan. Tsunade said with a subtle, mischievous smile. Konan, seeing that smile, immediately became wary. She'd been tricked by Tsunade before and knew that expression meant trouble. Tsunade, you seem mischievous. Konan took a few steps back, keeping her distance. Tsunade sighed dramatically, feigning hurt. Did Konan really distrust her that much? It stung a little, even though she had intended to tease her. Chapter 274, Is there anything wrong with taking my last name? Tsunade, Mikoto, and Konan returned home. But Shin and Kushina weren't in the living room, which Tsunade and Mikoto had expected. Did Shin go out with Kushina? Maitru Mummy couldn't help but ask. No. Go listen at his door, and you'll know. Tsunade said to Maitru Mummy. Maitru Mummy did as she was told, and as she reached the door, she could faintly hear certain sounds. Pa immediately, Maitru Mummy's face turned bright red.